Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Sagas.
If someone was listening and went, Sagas, then email us, tell us immediately. I don't know. We'll give you a high five. We'll try our best. What's up, everyone? You are watching / listening to the Command Zone podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jimmy Wong.
How's it? It's Josh Lee Kwai.
Okay, Kaldheim set review. It's not the last kind of thing we're going to do around Kaldheim, but this is a big one. We have 8 pages of outline in front of us.
Is it 8 pages?
Yeah, I
Holy
counted.
crap, we better get started.
Yeah, we better get started. We know everyone out there already knows what's coming next. That's right. CardKingdom.com/commandzo. We're going to be talking about a ton of cards today. New ones from Kaldheim as well as old classics and maybe things that you've never even heard about. The best way to get your hands on them quickly and efficiently and in great quality is at CardKingdom.com/commandzone. It's our affiliate link. You help the podcast every single time. You just type that into your browser or your mobile phone and use that to purchase from the site. And we can't thank everyone enough. And Card Kingdom, of course, always for being great partners with us.
Yeah, you're going to buy these cards anyway. There's a lot of cool stuff. Just use our affiliate link. When you do, you're helping out all of our content.
Yeah.
And another thing is to use UltraPro products to protect all your Magic cards once you get them. You know, we use Pro Gloss Eclipse sleeves, Jimmy and I do, for most of our decks. We use UltraPro playmats. We use UltraPro deck boxes. We use UltraPro wall scrolls hanging
From
behind
Kaldheim,
Jimmy
too.
there. That
Pretty
was very cool.
Yeah.
We use UltraPro relic tokens. We use UltraPro dice. UltraPro really is the best products, A, to protect your stuff, and B, to make your stuff look as cool as possible.
Yeah, it's your one-stop shop. It's got literally everything you need to make your Magic game professional or cooler or whatever you want to call
Professional.
it. Yeah. Maybe that's a little intimidating. How about just make it cooler?
Make it cool.
Yeah, make everyone go, wow, that's nice. The final way to support the show is directly at patreon.com. We talk to our patrons every single day on our Discord channel where we answer their questions. We also let them see episodes of Game Nights Extra Turns a day early without ads so they can comment on it and have that discussion in our Discord as well. It's a really awesome growing community. We'd love for you to be a part of it. Also, we shout out one lucky... you can go to patreon.com/commandzone.
That's how you join, yeah.
Yeah. And we also shout out one lucky patron every single episode. So this episode is dedicated to Jacob Pratt.
Jacob, you rock. I'm also a big fan of your brother, Chris. All right.
He's like, again.
Again, somebody made that joke. All right. Let's get into our main topic here. This is...
Game Nights.
Oh my God.
This is exciting.
Yeah, okay. Sorry. We promised last episode that we would announce the winners of the Game Nights audition process that we held late last year.
On this episode.
We got nearly 1,000 auditions, around 1,000 auditions from Kickstarter people, from Patreon people. It was a lot to go through. We have gone through them all. We've chosen the winners, and the winners are going to be announced at the end of the episode.
I was like, whoa, Josh. Okay, good. That was a trick.
So you got to wait around until the end of the episode once we've gone through the set review, or you're just going to click forward now. I know if you're a patron or Kickstarter and you auditioned, you're probably just going to click ahead. Feel free. You're going to find out. But everybody else, you'll find out at the end.
Yeah, that was a good Loki impression.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry, a good Tybalt impression.
Kaldheim set review. Valky, you mean?
Yeah, Valky. Sorry. Oh, gosh, my names.
So in this episode, we're going to be talking about the cards that go in your 99. So we already went through the MDF commanders. We also went through the more traditional commanders, all the legendary creatures, all the stuff that can be in your command zone. And this episode is dedicated to all the stuff from Kaldheim that we think will make a splash in Commander that is not a commander.
Yes, and there's plenty of cards to talk about, but as we always do, we break down the new mechanics of the set as well as the returning mechanics. So let's quickly go through those because they will factor into some of the cards we talk about today. The first is Foretell. So those of you that were playing around Throne of Eldraine, you may remember the adventure cards that let you cast them into exile. Foretell is very specifically very similar to that. It's an idea that you can foretell something that's going to happen in the future. So if a card has foretell on it for 2 generic mana during your turn, you may pay that and exile this card from your hand face down, and cast it on a later turn for its foretell cost. So you have to do it on a future turn, but usually the foretell cost is less than the actual CMC, and it follows on normal timing restrictions. So if it's an instant, you can cast it at instant speed. If it's a sorcery speed card, you got to do it at that speed as well.
Oh, yeah. I never even read that part about cast it on a later turn. So you can't just pay the foretell cost and then
immediately
cast it from foretell. That's interesting. It is interesting that it says during your turn, you may pay 2 and exile this card from your hand face down. So you can kind of do it at instant speed on your turn.
Right.
It doesn't really matter because you can't then cast it until a future turn, or a later turn.
Yeah.
But I find that interesting for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the text doesn't say you have to do it at sorcery speed, so you could end step foretell. We could be wrong about this, but
I think
generally,
you can, just the way that it's worded. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same as just 2 mana, face it down, and it's an exile, so it's hard to interact with. So that's also something we'll be talking about today.
Yeah, it's a little similar to Morph, but for spells, but it's not a special action like Morph is. So there's various things. We probably won't go real in depth on the rules. You should look it up if you're looking for corner cases. Yep. The next new mechanic, and actually there's only 2 new mechanics in Kaldheim. So the other new mechanic is the boast mechanic. And boasting is a mechanic that's tied specifically to attacking. So a creature will have boast, and then a cost, and then it'll say something will happen, like you make a 1/1.
Right.
But you can activate a boast ability only if this creature, the one with boast, has attacked this turn. And boast also has tied to it, you can only activate it once each turn.
Right. So it's not like an infinite mana sink when you swing with the creature, but you can do it the moment you swing with the creature. So it doesn't need to be on attack or a combat damage or being blocked or whatever. So you can go to combat, I'm going to attack with this creature and immediately use their boast ability if you want to.
Yeah. So not going to come into play a lot for us because most of the boast cards they're meant for limited and standard, right?
One card that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a number of returning mechanics which we'll go through really quick here. There's the Snow Matters theme. So if you've been paying attention at all, this set has snow-covered lands. There's also snow
permanents,
other snow lands,
instants as well. Yeah.
And so there's a bunch of stuff that's payoffs for snow. If you have this many snow permanents, do this. If you pay snow mana, you get some other added benefit. So that's kind of a returning mechanic.
Yep, and they've been doing a lot more of that recently with Modern Horizons as well. All right, the returning mechanic of modal double-faced cards. These are special cards introduced in Zendikar Rising. You can play either side of the card because there's something on both sides. And when you're able to play or cast it, so even if it's like in your graveyard, if you can play the card from there, you can choose I want to do it on its backside. In Kaldheim, we have a lot of different ones that are like commanders now that can be an enchantment on one side and a creature on the front, like Isika the God Tree. We talked about all those in the MDF Commanders episode, but they're evolving this idea. It's not just lands and a spell or just lands, although they have those here too.
The rules surrounding MDFCs can be a little complicated. We did an entire episode about it when Zendikar Rising came out. So if you want to go into the rules, corner cases again for MDFCs, check out that episode.
We go
that
really
episode number will be on screen if you're watching YouTube right now. Okay. One more returning mechanic. It's not really a mechanic. Sagas, and that is that's why we did that.
If I take one more step of the first I've ever stepped from this place, something Sam says along those lines.
Okay. Anyway, so we've sort of mused before about the possibility of a saga deck. I'd say it's definitely possible now. There are a ton of new sagas in this set.
And they're multicolored, which means that the 5-color saga deck is not going to have any problem running them. Before, sagas were only monocolored, so that's a key difference.
Okay. Let's go into the cards now. We're going to start with the new Planeswalkers.
Yes. The first one is a returning character, kind of like the front character of the entire set. Her and Tybalt are the two.
She's on the booster pack.
She's on the booster pack. She's in the cinematic. It is Kaya the Inexorable. I'll read it because I got it up.
Oh, you have it already?
Yeah, it's a 3 white and a black for a 5 loyalty Planeswalker. Her +1 is put a ghost form counter on up to 1 target non-token creature. It gains when this creature dies or is put into exile, return it to its owner's hand, and create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. The -3 is exile non-land permanent. And the -7, again, she starts at 5, is you get an emblem with at the beginning of your upkeep, you may cast a legendary spell from your hand, from your graveyard, or from among cards you control in exile or own in exile without paying its mana cost. Pretty strong emblem, probably not going to happen terribly often.
Yeah. We always say this, right? You don't judge, for the most part, Planeswalkers by their ultimate.
Yeah. She comes in at 5, though, and the +1 is interesting. Like, Kaya's Ghost Form is a similar effect where it gives you a counter, and then the thing, like, when it dies, you get it back to your hand, in this case, not back to the battlefield. That seems pretty okay. It's definitely something that puts her at 6. It doesn't create protection from her or for her, which is really important because someone could just swing out. The -3 is where I was interested because white-black is the exile effect.
Yep.
Utter End, there's
Anguish Unmaking.
Anguish Unmaking. So this is a 5-mana version of that sorcery speed. So
that
that's
leaves you with a 2 loyalty Planeswalker at the end.
Yeah, so I would say that's at its worst. What Kaya is. And that's actually not the worst at the end of the day. You don't want to pay 5 mana for it at sorcery speed, but it is an option, I think, if you're playing a deck that wants to do that.
Yeah, I'm not super impressed with Kaya because, like you said, the -3 is the most likely usage of it, and that's just a lot of mana to pay.
Yeah. If you do happen to get her ultimate off, though, a lot of people are talking about Karn's Temporal Sundering because it's a legendary spell, and it also exiles itself when it's done, but Kaya can cast those from exile with the emblem, so you just get infinite turns.
That seems good. I mean, from what I've experienced of Magic, when you have infinite terms, it seems like that's good for you.
Yeah, I think you tend to win the game. Also, if you have Kaya and she dies from the ultimate, you can also recast Kaya herself because she's a legendary card with her ability.
Oh, I did not realize
she comes
that.
Back.
That's interesting.
Yeah, interesting.
But you have to get the emblem.
Yeah, you got to get the emblem.
So you have to have Vorinclex out or Doubling Season out when you cast her, basically.
Which means you got to be in more colors, and now it's just impossible.
I could see her being good in the new Navineral.
Yeah.
Because that goes for him. And she's at 6 loyalty once she does that. And he doesn't destroy Planeswalker.
Yeah.
So, you could kind of get into that loop where you blow up the board over and over, but she sticks around. That could happen.
If you manage to sack the creature you put the counter onto, you get a 1/1, then that can be a blocker. So there is some upside, I think, if you're able to really... I'd say Aristocrats decks are probably looking to use her because you want to be able to sack creatures for value.
It's just still so much mana. I think they have better ways to do that.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to the next Planeswalker, which is Nico Eris. Costs blue, white, and X. That is a weird casting cost for a Planeswalker. Comes in with 3 loyalty. It says when Nico enters the battlefield, create X shard tokens. So a shard token is an enchantment with you pay 2, sacrifice the enchantment, scry 1, then draw a card. So a shard token is a little bit better than a clue.
Yep.
Just has that scry, and it's an enchantment.
And it's enchantment on artifacts, so upside downside.
Nico's +1 is up to 1 target creature you control can't be blocked this turn. Whenever that creature deals damage this turn, return it to its owner's hand. Interesting.
Not a May ability.
Yeah.
By the way.
-1, Nico deals 2 damage to target tapped creature for each card you've drawn this turn. And then Nico's -1 is you create a shard token. Very interesting in that there's an X ability, but it doesn't affect its loyalty.
Yeah.
And then doesn't really have an ultimate.
There is no ultimate. This is a Planeswalker that just wants to come in. Like Nissa Steward of Elements also has X in their casting cost. Nico has the same thing, but you make a bunch of shard enchantments, and in the control deck, it seems great. In the later on, that you have these, tons of ways to scry and draw cards. And then if you draw 2 cards in the turn, then Nico's going to do 4 damage to target tap creature. I'd say this feels like it's more suited for a standard environment than necessarily what we want in Commander, because I was looking up a lot of they're enchantments. Maybe, you get Enchantress draws, but you have to cast the enchantments on a lot of the Enchantress cards to do that, and Nico just makes them. So it doesn't seem that amazing in that world. But there are a few cards that have sort of when enchantments enter the battlefield effects. Like Archon of Sun's Grace is a Pegasus creature that has Constellation. So whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield, you make a 2/2 white Pegasus creature token with flying. So Nico would go well with, I think, that type of card.
There's Doomwake Giant that kind of board wipes if you put it. Constellation's just good with Nico because if you can have 5 shard tokens, and then when he hits the battlefield, you make another one.
Yep. So that Johnny's Chosen is great too.
Yeah.
Protean Thaumaturge, and then you just have if you're running decks that love Sphere of Safety and stuff, then seems like Nico would be good in that world. But blue-white is admittedly not my favorite color combo in Magic.
Nico's a 3-drop as well, so if you just drop them on turn 3 and then create a shard token, that's not the worst, right? That 2 loyalty, you're going to draw that card back because you got the shard token, and then on 3, very good chance nothing can attack it. And you can use the removal maybe the next turn because anything kill their Timna or something, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I could see this being okay because then on turn, I was going to say it's turn 7 or 8, but how often are you just going to want to dump 9 mana into a card like Nico? Because
unless you have those enchantment payoffs with Constellation, I feel like it's not going to be that amazing.
So this is enchantment dedicated deck or probably not being used, right?
Yeah, I mean, if it's not an enchantment dedicate deck, it feels like it's a control deck that Nico is going to be good to just get you extra value late and potentially be pretty good in the early game just to either make creatures unblockable or maybe occasionally kill something.
Okay. Yeah. All right, the next Planeswalker in the set is Tibalt, who is on the backside of the Valky card. Now, we covered Tibalt and Valky both in depth in the MDF Commanders, the MDFC set review. So we're not going to talk about it really here. If you want to hear our thoughts on Tibalt and Valky, then you can find them in that episode, which I believe is episode 374.
Yes, head on over. Tibalt is a great card. I think if I'm building another Rakdos deck, it's going to be Valky Tibalt.
All right. I look forward to that. I look forward to getting stomped by that, I suppose. All right, and the last Planeswalker in the set is Tyvar Kell, 2 green for a 3 loyalty Planeswalker. It says, elves you control have tap and add black to your mana pool.
Okay.
+1, put a 1/1 counter on up to 1 target elf. Untap it. It gains Death Touch until end of turn. So you can tap it for mana, and then, untap it.
Untap it.
Use
Attack.
It
You use it again, yeah.
There's a 0 ability on Tyvar. No negative ability. Well, has a ultimate, but not a traditional negative ability. The 0 ability is create a 1/1 green elf warrior creatures token.
Wow.
Okay.
That's actually, yeah.
Pretty good for a 4-drop, comes with 3 loyalty, makes a mana dork. Because remember...
Or 0, you just do it. Yeah.
The elf warrior could tap 4 black mana with Tyvar out. And then Tyvar's ultimate is -6. You get an emblem with whenever you cast an elf spell, it gains haste until end of turn, and you draw 2 cards.
Okay, so obviously that -6 is nuts. He's green, so you have Doubling Season and the new Vorinclex. I'd say, if you're playing an elf ball deck and you're able to do that, you basically put out a Zendikar Resurgent or a Great Henge on the battlefield, and that is going to almost guarantee you, winning that game, I think. The value is insane.
Yeah, I mean, Tyvar's just going in elf decks that have black, right?
Yeah.
I mean, green and
play
black,
the elf.
obviously.
Let's say you play the elf, it's a mana dork, you can tap it to play another run, you're drawing 2 cards every time with that ultimate. That is just that's a win condition for sure.
And when he lands, he turns your, your Elvish Visionary or whatever into a mana dork.
Oh,
So it's pretty good value. You put him down, make an elf that's a mana dork, and turns your other elves that maybe created elves when they came into play but don't do anything else into more mana. It's kind of like Cryptolith, right? Almost on a Planeswalker. Yeah, and protects itself in some ways because it can either untap a creature, so if you had to tap your Elvish Mystic or whatever, then you can put the 1/1 counter, untap it, gets Death Touch until end of turn, so that doesn't help you on defense. But it's a blocker that can help Tyvar, right, with the 1/1 that you created.
Yep.
Could be hard to get to him. I could see it being kind of difficult. Crap, I can attack, but he's just going to throw the 1/1 in front of it.
And elf decks generally will just have so much fodder to toss around at that point. The fact that he has the static ability of giving all your elves become mana dorks is very powerful.
But it's only elf decks, right? I don't think you're probably running Tyvar in just green and black decks because...
Maybe do a Morophon Changeling deck at this point. There are a couple of cards in this set that will allow you to go in that direction.
The All Tribes deck. We'll talk about this later, but I think that is a deck. So you're right. But I think most normal decks that aren't tribal in any way and don't have elves are not running Tyvar. They're not even thinking about it.
Yeah. I would say if you're going to put this in any deck, Nath of the Guilt Leaf comes to mind, and same with Lathril, who's all about making a bunch of 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens when they deal combat damage. So, go nuts.
Go nuts. Okay. The next card, this is a cool one. A white card, and it's from the mini precons. So it's not in the main Kaldheim set. You can only get this in the Commander Precon deck that came out with the set.
Which is actually exciting. And by the way, we'll be covering that in our next episodes. We always do the budget upgrade guides for those, so you'll see those then.
Yeah, we're still going to talk about those decks, but...
White is definitely being pushed in a direction, and we've sensed this now for almost a half year.
And not necessarily the direction we're asking for, but it is being pushed in a direction. I still like this kind of effect, though, and we've talked about this kind of effect. This is just another of them. So it's Cosmic Intervention. It's 3 and a white for an instant. It says, if a permanent you control would be put into a graveyard from the battlefield this turn, exile it instead. Return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step.
Ah, okay.
So if something you have is about to go to the graveyard, or at any time this turn that you've cast Cosmic Intervention hits the graveyard, instead of going to the graveyard at all, it will exile. So it won't even trigger dies triggers.
Yep.
And then it'll return to the battlefield as if it were blinked at the beginning of the next end step. Cosmic Intervention, remember, it's 3 and a white. However, it has foretell. So during your turn, you can pay 2 mana and exile Cosmic Intervention face down. And then on a later turn, you can cast it for 1 and a white.
Wow, at instant speed?
Yeah.
Yee.
Which is great because a lot of this is going to be in response to board wipes and things which are going to be happening on other players' turns.
Yeah.
And so only having to hold up 2 mana from then on out is a really big game because the closest analogs we have to this are like Faith's Rewards, which is 4 mana,
Yep.
no foretell, and like Second Sunrise, which is
Brings
3
back
mana and
everything,
brings
right?
back everybody else's stuff. Yeah, there's like Brought Back, but that only brings back 2 things.
Savage Reclamation doesn't really do much there either.
Yeah, Cosmic Intervention brings back all your stuff, and it's only 2 mana once you have it out, once you foretell it. So I think it's actually a pretty powerful card. The first usage I thought of, obviously, was what we talked about when we talked about sort of the Boros fetch land ramp package. Remember that, Jimmy?
Yep.
So you get a bunch of fetch lands, and then you play a bunch of these white cards that say, oh, any permanents or anything that went to the graveyard this turn, you can bring it back to the battlefield. And that's a way to sneak more lands into play because you go fetch, cast one of these, bring them back onto the battlefield, and you just kind of built your own rampant growth or your own explosive vegetation. So this can work in that regard, which I think is good because it's one of the better versions of this.
Yeah. I like that a lot, actually. And the fact that you can also grab this with Sunforger, it's a 4 CMC or lower spell. If you want to go really mean, you just play this with board wipes and mass land destruction.
That's the thing about this card is if you Armageddon, Ravages of War, Catastrophe, Boom Bust, Bearer of the Heavens.
Bearer of the Heavens. Hilarious.
A Fall of Thrawn.
Oh, yeah. 6-man destroy all lands.
If you do the land destruction thing and in response before, you go, okay, I cast Armageddon, hold priority, Cosmic Intervention. Everyone's lands are gone, but yours are coming back.
Yeah, and you're going to get any entrance to the battlefield triggers. You're going to be ready to go just immediately, almost.
And your lands will come back untapped, right? It's end step, so it's not like you get them during.
Yeah.
But still,
if you have activated abilities or cards in your hand to cast, that you're just in a winning position.
That's only 6 mana to pull off, by the way.
Oh god.
You're pretty much winning the game where you do that.
Yeah, just don't get countered.
Also, people will you're winning that game, but you won't have any friends, so that's a kind of a trade-off.
Yeah.
People will not like that, but it's very easy to do with this card.
Yeah, I think maybe the first sign that we had that white was going this direction was Gerard Weatherlight Hero. Gerard or Gerard? I don't know.
Gerard, I think.
Gerard, yeah. So he's similar. It's like the Eggs deck where when he dies, exile it and return to the battlefield all artifact and creature cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. Seems like kind of a redundant effect for this type of deck. Just to get tons of enter the battlefield abilities and just get tons of value off that big wipe.
I like the stuff that brings back non-lands, but when it brings back lands, it encourages you to take this line of play that I think is not going to be the most popular among players because that really is the best, most powerful way to use a card like this, right? Is to blow up everything, including lands, with something like Bearer of the Heavens, and then boom. And what kept that in check before is that Armageddon's 4 mana, and if you wanted to like use another card that's going to bring everything back, you need a lot more mana to do it. But now that's just 6 total mana, so you can do it a lot easier. But anyway, that's something to watch out for. I mean, when somebody foretells a card, there's only going to be certain cards that are possible to be under there. We're going to talk about them all in this episode, but there's probably only going to be like 3 or 4 that are realistic. And this is one of them you got to think about if they're white.
Unless they have that card that lets you foretell everything, in which case, good luck.
All bets are off.
Yeah.
That's a cool one. We'll talk about that in a minute. All right. The next white card is Doomscar. 3 white for a sorcery. It just says destroy all creatures.
Okay, 5 mana board wipe seems normal.
But it has foretell for 1 white.
3 mana board wipe. Now the total cost is still going to be 5, 2 to foretell it, and then 3 on the later turn. 3 mana board wipe. Hey, I would do it, especially if you have a little bit of extra mana lying around. It's easy to foretell this kind of card and just forget about it, and other players might too, and they might not realize, right? If you're playing mono white and you foretell either Doomscar or Cosmic Intervention or both, what are players going to do?
I mean, seriously, what do you do? Especially in a lot of colors. Like if you're in red, what do you even do?
Yeah.
It's not like you can do much about it. You just got to take your lumps. Here's a question I have, because I agree, 3 mana board wipe is great. One of the downsides of board wipes is when they're a little bit more expensive. You cast the board wipe, but then you have to pass the turn because you don't have any mana left.
Right.
And everybody else gets to repopulate their board first. So you end up being kind of behind from board wiping because you're the last one to start putting stuff out. But the cheaper the board wipe is, the better that gets. It's one of the reasons Toxic Deluge is so good, because you can often like, boom, blow everything up and still cast something. So you're actually the first one to get back on the board. So I like that about it. Do you think, Jimmy, that this is better or worse than like Wrath of God?
I think this is
4 mana.
I think this is just better because the difference between 4 and 5 isn't huge in Magic. Typically, you want to wait on board wipes. You're never playing them on the turn you can because, like, what are you wiping at that point? And I think just the fact that If it was easier to interact with foretell cards, I'd have a different opinion. But it's just not easy to. Not many people are playing the Eldrazi processors or whatever. So you kind of just have these cards in exile that you control that no one knows what they are. You can pull a trap card on people. I think the thing about board wipes is like if it's coming, it's coming. And if people know you have one in your hand or if it's foretold on the bill, it doesn't really change much, right? Like I think people still kind of play the same.
There's advantages to having your board wipe stowed away over there too. Like they can't make you discard it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, you've got a board wipe and you're like, I don't want to use it now. I'm just going to put it over there because it's a lot safer as a foretell card.
Just hiding away.
Than it is in my hand where they might, have some way to interact with my hand, playing Send Triplets or Zara or all these cards look at people's hands, steal, make you discard. There's a ton of
Valky,
Turgid or some Tiny Bones,
Yeah.
So there's a lot of advantages to it being over there. Yeah, I do think, I don't play Wrath of God straight up in any of my decks anymore, I don't think, because it's fallen low enough that you always can find better. But I think this is going to bump out some of the current crop of board wipes as one I would play, because 3 mana, the difference between 3 and 4 is just a lot.
Yeah. And being able to foretell it again, there will be turns when you just have 2 mana you can't use, and being able to foretell a card in that spot seems really great.
All right, let's talk about the next card, which is also board wipe protection. It's called Glorious Protector.
Yeah.
2 white for a 3/4 flash flying. I was going to try and make a Flample joke, but flash and flying is just flying.
Flying.
It's an Angel Cleric. So 4 mana, 3/4 flash flying, Angel Cleric. It says, when Glorious Protector enters the battlefield, you may exile any number of non-angel creatures you control until Glorious Protector leaves the battlefield. So again, in response to a board wipe, you can flash this out. It'll exile all your non-angel creatures. Then it'll die to the board wipe and bring them all back. So that's board wipe protection. Also has foretell for 2 and a white. So if you foretell it, you can just you have like almost an Eerie Interlude or a Ghostway sitting over there. It's non-angel. So, maybe some of your creatures it won't save, but, don't put it in an angel deck, I guess. This is the weird angel that doesn't want to be in an angel deck.
Yeah, like the Lisa decks that are... Yeah. It's a May ability too, right? So you don't have to exile everything.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
So you could choose, okay, just want the ETB effects on these guys or girls or whatever.
That actually makes it pretty good for, like, some blink flicker decks, like Rune, since... Now just blinking the Glorious Protector with Rune means you can blink multiple creatures, right?
Yeah, that's right. Rune just brings it in, then boom, whole list of things pop out. You probably have some other ways to flicker that too.
Yeah, Livio would work the same way because it's mono white.
Yeah, I think if you're doing any sort of flicker deck, Eldrazi Displacer, Brago, all of these cards are going to be a good card to run alongside Glorious Protector.
This is also just good, though, if you say, cast some sort of board wipe, hold priority, flash this thing in, save my board, yours dies, kind of like Gerard, kind of like Cosmic Intervention. So
and it's 3 CMC when you foretell it.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
All right, let's go to the next card, which is also from the mini precons. It's called Hero
of Bretagard. I got this one.
You got it, okay.
Yeah, this is 2 and a white for a creature human warrior with a lot of text. Whenever you exile one or more cards from your hand and or permanents from the battlefield, where are the cards we just talked about? Put that many +1/+1 counters on Hero Bretagard. As long as this card has 5 or more counters on it, it has flying and is an angel in addition to its other types. So if it's a 6, it basically is a 6/6 flying angel. As long as this card has 10 or more counters on it, it has indestructible and is a god in addition to its other types.
Wow.
So I guess you can become a god. You can rise to the occasion if you want to with the Hero Bretagard. There's a lot of flickering synergies. I think this card plays more of a... It's funny because once it becomes an angel, then Glorious Protector does not work with it anymore.
Oh, interesting.
So, I mean, for me, this isn't that exciting, but I think it is, again, pointing us again, hey, this is what we like white to do. They may not be drawing cards, but they're going to get on the battlefield synergies, maybe, with flickering or exiling things from your hands or permanents on the battlefield.
Yeah, it's just a payoff for flickering stuff, and it's an okay payoff.
Yeah.
It's not, like, insane. I don't know. It's a 3-mana 1/1, so I don't think we're going to see it very much.
The flavor is pretty cool, though. It literally ascends to godhood more than it does the thing.
There's another card that turns creatures into gods later on, and I like that one better. The other one. All right. The next white card is...
Search for glory, 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 glory. All right, I have this one up too.
Okay.
Oh, you got it?
I have it.
Okay, great.
All right, Search for Glory. 2 and a white for a snow sorcery. Search your library for a snow permanent, a legendary card, or a saga card reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. You gain 1 life for each snow mana spent to cast this spell.
Okay, so that last part, not really relevant.
Who cares? Like, you can just put it in normal deck, so you don't care about the 3 life.
It's a tutor for white for 3 mana. This is right at the range that we've seen it be. This is exciting. You can get the legendary or a saga or a snow permanent. Wow.
Yeah, it gets... Because it's any snow permanent, right?
Right.
Oh, and any legendary permanent as well. So Sarah's Sanctum, Guy's Cradle,
Not just
Urborg.
permanent card. If there's a sorcery or something that's a legendary, you can also grab that.
Planeswalkers. Any Planeswalker is legendary.
Yep.
Any other key pieces in your deck that are legendary? I think legendary is the one that's most likely to be something you're after. Yeah, I mean, obviously, the snow and the saga part's a little bit more limited use. If you've got a saga deck, this probably goes in if there's certain sagas you want. How many good solid targets do you think you need, that you're going to want to go find? Because I think people are going to look at this and be like, this is awesome. I could put it in any deck. How many legendary cards do you need in your deck, before you want to play this?
I'd say at least 4 to 6. And it would also come with the caveat that, this legendary card is the reason this deck can win.
Yeah.
Like some elf decks, for instance, might want to find whatever it is.
Azuri.
Yeah, that gives
Original
them the
Azuri that pumps them all.
Yeah, or Kamal, the new one, you know. So I think that's the important thing to ask is when I do look for a legendary, is it the kind of card that is going to save me or change the pace of the game, or is a key combo piece? Otherwise, this does look a little less impressive.
Yeah, if your key synergy pieces are on legendary stuff, or snow, I guess, or saga, but it's most likely to be legendary, then this is going to be a decent tutor. I mean, 3 mana tutors are just mostly fine. Idyllic Tutor never feels broken or anything. It's just it's just I do what I have to do. Once it gets to 4 mana, I don't even want to pay that for a tutor anymore. So
yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah.
When the gold standard said that 2 or even 1 at instant speed, it's kind of hard to go otherwise.
Yeah.
If you are in the Legendary Matters deck, and there's a lot of support for that these days, this is obviously good in that.
Oh yeah, because you'll have 20 targets.
Yeah.
I think if you have more than 10 good targets,
it serves as like a
good.
Sisei almost,
Yeah.
but it's to your hand. If only it could bring the snow permanent or land onto the battlefield tapped.
Okay,
Then we're baking.
Broken.
Maybe just snow land, not even permanent.
Then it would just be a ramp spell.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe if it was just cultivate.
Yeah, can we just make it cultivate
But for snow.
Snowy, yeah.
Snowtivate.
Yeah.
Snowtivate.
All right, well, that's the end of the podcast, everyone. Thanks for watching. Our office is...
My
Okay,
God.
yeah.
All right. The last white card is called Starnheim Unleashed. It's 2 white for a sorcery. It says, create a 4/4 white angel warrior creature token with flying and vigilance. If this spell was foretold, create X of those tokens instead, and the foretell cost is XX and white. So it's just entreat the angels if you foretell it.
Yeah. Is it better than Entreat the Angels? Entreat the Angels, by the way, is XX white, and you create X 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying, but you can miracle it for X white.
I feel like it's mostly better because you don't have to meet the miracle criteria. The thing that can happen with Entreat the Angels, if it's not the first card you draw on a turn, then it can just get stranded in your hand because the casting cost just sucks if it's not miracled out.
Yeah. At its base, Entreat the Angels is 5 mana with 3 white pips for a 4/4, and Starnheim is just 4 mana for that. And then later on...
And the Angels have Vigilance, where do Entreat the Angels have Vigilance?
I don't think so. No, they're just flying angels.
So
yeah, this is way better actually.
Yeah, I think Starnheim Unleashed is just better than Entreat the Angels. Not saying a ton, although we did see Entreat the Angels win a game on game nights.
Yeah, well that's because the miracle cost is so nuts. It's X white. The foretell here is XX white, so it's 3 mana for a 4/4, 5 mana for 2 4/4s, 7 mana for 3 4/4s. So that's actually pretty good.
Yeah, I think this is very, very strong. And I mean, it's quite good. I think I'm going to put it in some token decks for sure, right?
Yeah. It's like that really cool scene from Thor Ragnarok, or at the end, when they're all flying in, but they're on the Pegasus and stuff.
It's the Tessa Thompson's, the Valkyries?
Yeah, Valkyries.
Yeah, Valkyries. So, okay. Honestly, 2 white, and you just create a Sarah Angel. That's just 1 mana better than one of the greatest creatures of all time, right?
Yeah, it gives vigilance and flying.
Yeah, you can't do that with Entreat the Angels. You can't just decide to create a 1 token.
Yeah,
I mean, just on the face of it. I guess you technically can by paying the 5 mana, but yeah, I mean that's why this is good too, because sometimes 4 mana, if I already have Parallel Lives or Annoying Procession or something else out, it's just going to be I'll pay 4 mana and just make 3 of those right now rather than jump through the foretell hoops.
If you're in a token deck, this is great, obviously. So. Okay, how did white fare overall, do we think?
So we mentioned it, but it feels like they're really trying to push this, I'm going to wrath everything and then keep my own stuff strategy. And it's a powerful strategy. I'm not going to lie. I think, unfortunately, that in order for that to be really, really good, you have to wrath everybody's lands and get yours back. And people hate playing against that.
But I'm on the white's all I have.
Yeah, so I don't like necessarily leaning into white being able to do that as a way to sort of fix them, because it's just we want white to be viable in a way that also fits the criteria of the social contract, right?
Yep.
So
I'm more in the realm of I like the flicker enter the battlefield path, because mono white can do that without needing to be Azorius, which typically we've seen with Brago and Rune getting green as well. So the fact that mono white's getting more of that support is fine by me. It doesn't seem like it breaks anything. It's certainly not. I think this puts it slightly on pace or slightly worse than what we've seen for like green and blue. So it's still not catching them up like we've talked about.
And we talk about 5 or 6 cards here, and not a single one drew cards. And only one of them, and this is if you really stretch, because Cosmic Intervention might be a ramp card if you, under some circumstances.
Yeah, if you build it for that.
But I don't think I would even technically classify it as just a ramp card. But so what? Whatever. We talked about 5 or 6 cards. No card draw, 1 ramp card, like, sort of. That's a little, that's too bad. Okay, let's go into blue.
Blue. The first card is Alrun's Epiphany.
It is 5 blue for a sorcery. Create 2 1/1 blue bird creature tokens with flying. And then take an extra turn after this one, exile Alrun's Epiphany.
I was going to say, okay, 7 mana, 2 birds, but you also get to take a turn. You exile the card. There's a nice little part to this, though.
Yeah, it also has foretell for 4 blue. So it's 1 mana cheaper if you foretell it. So 6 mana, make 2 1/1 flyers and take an extra turn if you foretell it. 7 mana, make 2 1/1 flyers and take an extra turn is fine as well. It's just kind of up there with the other class of extra turn cards, right?
Yeah, and the fact that it exiles itself is rough because a lot of blue is about Snapcastering Mage stuff back or whatever, so it makes it a little bit weaker. The foretell, and it's not like a 5 mana extra turn, which is we've seen sort of the best outside of obviously the power 9. I think this is just okay. Yeah. The fact that it takes up a mythic slot is kind of confusing too, because it doesn't feel mythic power level.
Some people mentioned that it might be good in Yenit because it's an odd CMC, but if you happen to draw it, you can at least get it out of your hand for a little bit cheaper with the foretell. Eureka maybe, just because the birds are kind of it's a big spell that deals a lot of damage to all your opponents, but also the birds can be used for ninjutsu later on.
Smart.
Edric probably goes in Edric because Edric is trying to hit everybody with a bunch of small flying stuff and then keep digging and finding more and more extra turns, and this gives you both pieces of that puzzle.
Yep.
So there you go.
So nothing amazing, but definitely a strong card, and one I think that you'll see probably around because we don't really. It's like a lot of those old extra turn spells cards are from a while ago.
Expensive.
And inexpensive too. So this is the kind of card you'll probably see more often now because it's just more available.
Whatever the recent extra turn spells are, and they always seem to print a couple within any given 2-year span. You tend to see those for a while until we move on to the next and then because that's just the ones people have. And there's not a ton of difference between this and any other extra turn spell that costs 6 or 7.
Yeah.
All right. The next card is called Ascendant Spirit.
Okay. Are you ascending yet?
I mean, this thing is about to. It's 1 blue for a 1/1. It's a snow creature spirit. You can pay 2 snow mana, and Ascendant Spirit becomes a spirit warrior with base power toughness 2/3. So for 2 mana, it becomes a 2/3.
Okay.
You can pay 3 snow mana, and if Ascendant Spirit is a warrior, put a flying counter on it, and it becomes a spirit warrior angel with base power and toughness 4/4 and has flying. Oh, you put a flying counter on it as well. So you have to do these in order, right? Because it has to be a warrior. So for 5 mana, you can turn it into a 4/4 flyer.
Okay. Probably over a couple of turns.
Yeah. And then you can pay 4 snow mana, and if Ascendant Spirit is an angel, you put 2 1/1 counters on it, and it gains whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So it becomes a 6/6 flyer that is also Shadow Mage Infiltrator.
Right. And notably, you can activate that last ability anytime you want because it doesn't change the creature type. It's still an angel. So if you get it to become that angel spirit, a spirit warrior angel, then you can just activate this over and over again.
You not only activate it any time, you can activate it as many times as you want to make it infinitely large. So if you make infinite snow mana, you can make Ascendant Spirit infinitely large. You'll also draw infinite cards when it hits somebody because
every time?
Yeah, so every time you pay the 4, it gains another instance of when it deals combat damage, draw a card.
That's hilarious. So they're just going to get 1,000 instances of that and just immediately draw you out?
Yeah, and also note, it doesn't say until end of turn anywhere on there.
Oh.
So it just gets whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Yeah, it's not just this turn.
Okay.
You can also skip the first couple of activations because we're seeing all these cards, and there's a couple in this set that give all creature types to creatures. So if you give this thing all creature types, then it will already be a warrior and an angel when you activate it for 4. And it'll be like, are you an angel? Yeah, you are. I'll give you 2+1/+1 counters and...
For just 4 now, yeah.
Yeah.
So Arcane Adaptation, Conspiracy, the newest card from Kaldheim is Maskwood Nexus.
Mirror Entity will do this. Yeah.
We've seen a lot of these types of cards before, the Changeling-esque thing where it's you can shapeshift into a bunch of different things, or it can just start growing and buffing itself up. It's a lot of mana, and if it gets removed anywhere along the line, you definitely feel very bad about it.
Yeah, it's 3 mana for a 2/3, then you will have paid 6 mana for a 4/4 flyer, and then you will have paid 10 mana for a 6/6 flyer that when it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Would you pay 10 mana for a 6/6 flyer that does that?
Even if it's split over a bunch of turns, probably not.
No, I don't think so. So I think there's some cute stuff you think you might do with it, but most of the time you're just going to invest a bunch of mana, it's going to die.
Yeah, it is still a 1 mana, 1/1 spirit, so there may be some decks that care about that too.
All right.
Okay.
This next card is very interesting.
Yeah, this is
a cool one.
Yeah.
And we saw it on game nights. Jacob played it. It is Mystic Reflection, 1 and a blue for an instant. Choose target non-legendary creature. The next time one or more creatures or planeswalkers enter the battlefield this turn, they enter as copies of the chosen creature. And then it has foretell for just 1 blue mana.
Wow. Instant speed, 1 blue mana. You can change anytime a creature comes in the battlefield. With the moment, you can just choose them to become copies of that.
Right. So notably, it only counts the next time one or more creatures enter the battlefield this turn. That means you're looking for moments when many creatures are entering all at once.
Right.
Usually tokens, right? So everyone's talking about Avenger of Zendikar. Avenger of Zendikar, the way you play this card is you cast the Avenger of Zendikar. Triggers on the stack with the plants are about to be created. Then you cast Mystic Reflection, hopefully for just 1 blue mana because of foretell. And all the plant tokens from Avenger of Zendikar are going to come in at the same time, and you pick Avenger of Zendikar. And so you go, I'm going to make, I have 7 lands. I'm going to make 7 plant tokens, but they're going to come in as 7 Avenger of Zendikars. So that's going to make 49 plant tokens.
Wow.
But it's only the next time. So when those Avenger of Zendikars come in and the plant tokens come in, Mystic Reflection is already over. They don't see it anymore. Yeah.
It just triggers 1 time on that first when all the plant tokens enter. And then you crack 1 fetch land and gives them all haste, and you probably win that game.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, so Secure the Waste, another great way to put in a ton of tokens into play. Scoot Swarm, we've seen this thing just go off. Yeah, there are so many fun things to copy with this, right?
Yeah, Terastodon's a really cool one. So you cast Terastodon, you target your own stuff, and then when those, elephants, beasts, whatever those 3/3s come in, they all come in at once. So you go Mystic Reflection, make 3 more Terastodons, destroy 9 things. That's a cool one.
Yeah, and you can do it to other people's legendary creatures too, so they could have the Terastodon or whatever, and you just have a way to use this to your benefit.
Yep, Army of the Damned. There's a new card called Rise of the Dreadmarn. These are all ways for a lot of creatures to come in at once. Also, it doesn't have to be tokens, right? So, Jimmy, you played... Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
You paid Thrilling Encore on whatever episode, I forget.
Yeah, 2 episodes ago with Rachel Weeks, right? Yeah, and Joe.
Yeah. So that's a time when a bunch of creatures are coming back onto the battlefield from the graveyard, and you can Mystic Reflection because they all enter at the same time and turn them into all of 1 creature. Yeah. Now, the creature you target has to already be out.
Yeah.
So you can't, choose one of the ones that's getting Thrilling Encore back. Yeah. But that's a way. Cosmic Intervention is another way. Glorious Protector, those 2 cards we just talked about in white. Another way is for multiple creatures to be entering all at once.
Yeah, so I guess at the end of the day, it's like, how do you really use this to win or to get really far ahead? And so there are obviously a bunch of good creatures out there with great enter the battlefield abilities.
Yeah, good stuff you want to copy.
Yeah. Dockside Extortionist.
Oh, boy.
Please reprint this card. It is absurd how high it's getting. Everyone needs it, especially mono red players. Grey Merchant of Asphodel, that is just an instant win. If you can 5 copies of that.
If you can Secure the Waste, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really only need 4 Grey Merchants, and that's
because they all have 2 pips in themselves too. Yeah, it's a ton.
What else?
Agent of Treachery. Jeez, you wrote this, right? You wrote Terracodon, Agent of Treachery in the same like notes about the card. So this card has definitely got the potential to be very powerful.
I also wrote Biovisionary. That's cool.
Oh yeah,
That's
I love that card.
Yeah. It also has a lot of flexibility, kind of as a counterspell. So you can use this not only to copy your opponent's creatures, but you can use this against your opponent's creatures when their creatures are entering. So it just says the next time one or more creatures or planeswalkers enter the battlefield this turn, they enter as a copy of the chosen creature. So let's say they're in an elf ball deck or whatever, and they've got 50 elves, and they go, aha, I'm going to win Craterhoof Behemoth. And you go, I don't want to die. I'm going to Mystic Reflection targeting one of your elves. And now the Craterhoof doesn't enter the battlefield. It comes in as a copy of a 1/1 elf or something.
And they spent 8 mana to do it. Oh, that's amazing. So yeah, there's so many of those instant win on the spot cards that when they play, you're like, oh no, this is going to happen. So Lab Maniac and Thassa's Oracle, same thing. That seems so funny to me.
Yeah, especially since Thassa's Oracle are one of those, it feels like that's going to end up killing them because they probably are at a point with no cards in their deck, right?
Yeah, and they're like, this is going to be it. And now they're stuck, and they have to find a way to recast if they can or something.
Dual Caster Mage is another one that just tends to, like, when they play it, bad things are going to happen, and you go, I don't want you to fork anything. Let's just make that into a copy of something, not so scary. Anybody's Right of Replication, boom, they think they're going to make 5 copies of something awesome. You're like, well, you're going to make 5 copies of the worst thing on the battlefield.
Ooh, yep.
Just opposing commanders. I think this is really good. Their commander's going to come out, and let's say it's Korvold. Korvold decks really need Korvold out to do their thing, and you just go, okay, your Korvold is actually a copy of...
Yeah. So notably, you can't choose a legendary creature to copy when they come in, but if another opponent plays a legendary creature, it doesn't matter. You can choose anything on the board for it to come in as a copy of, even like a Ornithopter if you really want to be silly about it.
Yeah. Hopefully there's an Ornithopter out when you have Mystic Reflection out, because that'll be sweet. So a lot of uses, and I think the flexibility of it makes it very powerful, because not only can you use it in a situation where you're going to have an explosive play that you're going to pull off, it also is a fail-safe in a lot of scenarios where it's going to stop an opponent from, a devastating play against you.
I mean, even if they have Doubling Season out and then play a Planeswalker, you can... Oh, no, you can't. You can... No. Yeah, the next time one more, you can change a Planeswalker
into a creature.
Too. Yeah, so it's like Doubling Season, play my big win condition. Sorry, it's a 1/1. For 1 mana, too. That's why this card is so good, is that you can cast it for 1 mana instant speed, I think. So.
Also, some people have noted you can put this under Isochron's Scepter, which is pretty brutal.
Let's never tell the audience that again, so I never have to face against it.
It is like, there are downsides to the card. You have to have a target in play for it to do anything. So let's say somebody board wipes, and then they go to play their Korvold. Well, there's no target for you to do anything with, so the card's a dud in that situation. All right, on to the next blue card, which a lot of people are saying breaks the color pie.
Yeah, it's a common, by the way.
It's 2 in a blue. Oh, sorry. It's called Raven Form. I was just going to go on to explaining the card without talking. Let's saying the name of it. Raven Form, 2 in a blue, sorcery. Exile target artifact or creature. Exile target artifact or creature. In blue,
what is happening?
Its controller creates a 1/1 blue bird creature token with flying.
That's it?
It also has foretell for a blue.
What?
It is a sorcery, so at least they tried to keep it in check a little. But blue's exiling artifacts now?
Blue's single common here is better than, like, almost every other card in the set.
How is blue exiling artifacts? I kind of get the creature thing and make another thing, because at least we have some precedent. Pongify, rapid hybridization.
It's just creatures, yeah.
Yeah, but blue, one of the things blue can't do is interact with artifacts, right? They can only really bounce them or counter them, but they can't destroy or exile. But no.
Yeah, that's green's thing, yeah.
We've seen blue get to exile stuff more and more. We have Amphimutineer. I don't know why they're pushing exile into blue. I don't know who's saying, like, blue. They do not have enough cool stuff they can do.
Let's just toss them this absurd ability.
Yeah, what other...
And 1 mana if they want to foretell it.
Yeah, so I don't get this. I don't get why this card exists, but I think it's actually pretty decent.
I mean, I think it is really decent. I mean, right now you have, like, sort of the one that manifests one.
Reality Shift.
And that's an instant, so that's
only
great.
Works against creatures.
But at just the cost of 1 mana, if you're foretelling this is beyond efficient, even if it is sorcery speed. And blue has, again, the ways to make things flash speed, as we all know.
Yep.
So,
I mean, you have to foretell it, so you did pay 3 mana, but you're only paying 1 mana at the time.
Yeah. But if you're in the mono blue deck and you play Vidal Nori or their Leyline and
Yeah.
you have a 3-mana instant speed
It's just
exile
the ability
creature,
to mess with artifacts, which you just didn't have before. It's kind of hard. It's like the black card that they just printed that messes with enchantments, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
This is messy. I don't like it.
Nobody was complaining. Oh, blue, they can't mess with artifacts. This is a down. You know what I mean? I just don't know why they can do it.
Well, it's Raven form. I don't know. It's coming out of a sword in the art, so maybe that's the artifact.
All right.
All right, next up we have Reflections of Lit Yara. It's 4 in the blue for an enchantment. As Reflections enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, copy that spell. Pretty cool, and the copy permanent spell becomes a token. So this is exciting. Obviously, Tribal is getting a tons of support recently. So there are a lot of tribes out there that want to have more versions of that thing. Like, for instance, you know how Snow, we want more Snow permanents out. Well, so do Slivers. Especially when those Slivers are granting abilities to every single other Sliver on the battlefield. You get 2 of them now?
Yeah, I just think any Tribal deck that's in blue should at least consider this card because it's kind of like doubling season for whatever you're doing.
Right.
It's doubling
creature?
Yeah, because even when you cast a creature spell, it makes a token copy of the creature. But even if you got like a Tribal spell, it'll make a copy of that. So anything that's whatever the creature type is. Yeah,
swap.
Persistent Petitioners, this seems really, really good.
Oh, you just get more of them, and you're always,
And they're cheap, so you're just going to cast 2 of them in a turn and actually get 4 of them.
Yeah.
Things like, Merfolk, Pirates.
Tons of Lords in those, yeah.
Scarecrow, Reaper King stuff. This is just, it's a Tribal card, and I think it's going to go, like, what number of a certain type of Tribal card in your deck do you think you have to have before you want to run this? To make it good, yeah.
It's weird because I would say, you want a big Tribal deck, obviously, so that when you draw this, it's never a dead card. Is there a world, though, where you play Reflections of Liara and your commander is just a creature type that you want to double up?
But it's legendary.
It's legendary, yeah. Well, I guess maybe unless it's Sakashima.
Yeah.
Or you have a spell, you have like maybe it's like one of those things too, like I could see this in a deck where you got a ton of wizards and a ton of X. They just happen to work really well together.
Yeah,
and
but
when
then
you play this, you're like,
how many wizard spells would you need in your deck before you think Reflections of Liara is good?
I don't know. 15 plus for if you're trying to split it, but otherwise you want to go full Tribal, I think. So
I think you want
stuck.
25. Otherwise, you have too much propensity to draw this, play it, maybe get one thing off of it the entire game.
Yeah.
You want most of your spells in your deck to be of that tribe.
Yeah.
I think people look at these cards and think they're awesome, and they're not wrong. They're just wrong about them being awesome in their deck. Because if you only have 12 of whatever tribe in your deck, like Krakens or whatever, this is not going to be that great. Because making one extra Kraken over the course of the game is not.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of like if you're enter the battlefield Tribal or something. But this reminds me of like compare this to Stolen Strategy. You get access to how many cards per turn without having to pay a single thing. This is very much specifically like you got to be Tribal. You have to have a lot of creature types.
All right, so that was all of our blue cards. How do we think blue fared?
Pretty darn good here. 2 of these cards are just like, wow. Mystic Reflection. I think this is a card that will become very ubiquitous in the format soon.
It's pretty cool.
You're just going to see it all the time. It's got so many uses. It's got really relatively low cost overall, too.
Yeah. I think a lot of people will probably be it's not great in their deck because you really, I think, want some Avenger of Zendikars and things like that in your deck that you have the possibility of making multiple creatures come in all at once. If you don't have that in your deck, I don't think Mystic Reflection is probably that great. It is a very cool card, though.
I think if you have a lot of like instants and stuff and you just have a lot of card draw, then it's not a hurtful card to put in your deck because it does have that fail safe. And sometimes blue needs counter spells to do that. But only having to hold up 1 blue to stop against like what I'd say Craterhoof is like one of the most common ways to win games. So
yeah, it's not as good as a counterspell in that instance, right? Like
counterspell is always just going to be better.
Because they're still going to get something. And there's rarely going to be a creature on the battlefield in Commander that's like absolutely horrible. Sometimes there's tokens and stuff, but a lot of times it's like, well, you're going to just have to pick the least good thing.
Yeah.
And then Mystic Reflection on your side, if you don't make 2 creatures, it's going to cost you a card to make one of your other cards into a different card. So I think it's good, but you really have to have the right deck for it. Raven Form, I think, is a card we're going to see quite a bit of. I'm putting Amphimeteor in like every blue decks now. Just because
the exile. It's huge.
The ability to exile is just really big. So, all right, we've got a lot more colors to go. We've got black, we've got red, we've got
green.
Yeah, and all the multicolored artifacts, the lands.
Sagas, artifacts, lands, yeah. Oh, gosh.
So don't go anywhere, but we're going to take a quick break and hear a message from our sponsors.
Hey there, my name's Todd, but most people call me Brazen Borrower. Everyone assumes I got that nickname because I steal things, but that's not true. I mean, I do steal things, but that's not where I got the name. Fact is, I took out a bunch of bad loans a while back. You know how it is. Unexpected expenses, quick decisions, sky-high interest rates, all landed me smack dab in a big old pile of debt. But then I found UpStart, the fast and easy online way to get a personal loan and dig my way out. All it took was a 5-minute online rate check, and UpStart was able to show me my rates for loans from $1,000 to $50,000. I got approved the very same day, and before I knew it, UpStart set me up with a simple fixed monthly payment. They even got me a smarter interest rate, because UpStart looked at more than just my credit score. Now I can spend less time worrying about money and more time pursuing my passion, which is larceny.
Find out how Upstart can lower your monthly payments today when you go to upstart.com/command. That's upstart.com/command. Don't forget to use our URL to let them know we sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Go to upstart.com/command today.
Hey, that guy's got my potion!
Look at the time. I gotta fly.
Hey, morning, Josh. Wow, you're looking very clean shaven today.
Hey, you too. I guess we both love that clean, close, comfortable shave of Harry's razors.
Yeah.
Did you hear, by the way, that Harry's for a limited time is offering a starter set plus a free body wash for just $3 at harrys.com/command?
Man, you ever wonder what life would be like without Harry's razors?
How's it? I'm bearded Josh Lee Kwai.
And I'm Bearded Jimmy Wong, and you're listening to Whisker Talk, brought to you by Beard Kingdom.
Today's topic is, are mustaches beards?
That would certainly be different.
Yeah.
Thank goodness for Harry's. You know, they make their blades themselves, keeping prices low and quality high.
And refills are only $2, and there's a 100% quality guarantee, so you're always satisfied.
And for a limited time, Harry's has an exclusive offer for our Command Zone listeners. New customers can get a Harry's starter set and a free body wash for just $3 at harrys.com/command.
That's over $16 of value for just $3. You'll get a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, foaming shave gel, a travel cover, and a travel-size body wash.
It's an incredibly great deal, but act fast while supplies last. Go to harrys.com/command to redeem your offer.
Do you watch a lot of screens? Well, trust me, I totally get it. All I do all day is watch! Shows, news, movies. Did you know there's a streaming service called Fubo? Well, I've watched everything on it, because I'm Vega, the freaking watcher. I see the past, present, and future, and all three are full of screens. My eyes can't take it anymore. Thank the gods I have my RAYCON wireless earbuds. That way I can take a break from time to time and just listen. RAYCONs are water and sweat resistant, they've got seamless Bluetooth pairing, and their batteries last up to 6 hours, so I can relax to the soothing sounds of my favorite death metal. Ah, so peaceful. And the best part is that RAYCON start at half the price of other premium earbuds, and they always look discreet and stylish, in case anyone is watching me for a change.
Raycon's offering 15% off all their products for Command Zone listeners, and here's what you gotta do to get it. Go to buyraycon.com/command. You'll get 15% off your entire Raycon order, so feel free to grab a pair and a spare. That's 15% off at buyraycon.com/command. Again, buyraycon.com/command.
Ah, just like Mother used to sing.
Welcome back. Get rid of that page. I never want to look at it again because we are moving on to black when it comes to reviewing all of the cards that can go in the 99 from Kaldheim. So let's get right into it. This one is a fun one. It's definitely a black card for sure.
It is Burning Rune Demon, 4 black for a 6/6. Demon Berserker with flying. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for exactly 2 cards not named Burning Rune Demon that have different names. If you do, reveal those cards. An opponent chooses one of them, put the chosen card into your hand and the other into your graveyard, then shuffle your library. So you have to get 2 cards that don't share a name and aren't a Burning Room Demon, easy in Commander. And then
definitely easy in Commander.
It's kind of like a mini Fact or Fiction. They go, you get that one. And that one goes to the graveyard, the other one.
So this reads kind of like you get the second best card in your deck no matter what. Because if there's 2 cards and one of them's clearly like, can't give them that, then you'll get the other one. Runescarred Demon is a enter the battlefield demon that just gets you a card into your hand. Demonic Tutor, that's 7 CMC.
Do you think this is better than worse than Runescarred?
This, I think, has to be better in a lot of cases, but Runescarred will still be good in other certain scenarios too.
Yeah. There's a lot of good decks that use their graveyard kind of as extensions of their hand, and they don't really care if something's in their graveyard or their hand. Carador, Marin, Arami, Kess, Scarab God, all kinds. So it's pretty easy in those decks that this is just better, right? Because you're like, I basically got 2 cards. One's going into my hand, one's going to my graveyard. I don't care which is which. I can use both.
And the other thing is, too, is a lot of decks want to find combo pieces and they don't care if they're in the graveyard. So, like, a Karmic Guide, Reviarch, like those are, or Reviarch can get stuff back. So it's like
Either one can get the other.
yeah, you're giving them a hard choice, a no-win choice, as you wrote down here.
Yeah. And also, you can just do no-win choices like Path and Swords,
Right. 2 removal spells. They're both doing the same thing pretty much.
2 board wipes. Or you can
yeah.
do like Eternal Witness and anything, or Yawgmoth's Will and anything.
Right. So they have to give you the Ewit because you have to pay the man to get the card back or whatever.
Yeah, but you're going to get the other card back, so you can kind of put them in a no-win situation.
Yeah, I think I was looking on the competitive EDH sort of areas of the internet, and there are a lot of different things, like Underworld Breach and the Flicker spell. So if they have to give you Underworld Breach, you play that as long as you have 3 cards in your graveyard. You can use the Flicker spell then to get the Burning Rune Demon again, and then you just do what they're calling deterministic routes, where you keep getting 2 cards in the way to use them until you find exactly the combo of like Brain Freeze, LED, or whatever it is.
Kind of is like Birthing Pod or Vanifar, where you just know the steps.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what their choices are.
And once you get going,
Yeah, once you get going, you go, and then I get these cards, and then I get these cards, and we just go down that. Yeah. So this is a strong card.
Yeah, obviously play it in Kalia and any of those graveyard decks we mentioned before, for sure. Carador seems a great place for this card.
All right. The next one is pretty cool. It's called Dream Devourer. It's 1 and a black for an 0/3. It's a Demon Cleric. 2 mana. Each non-land card in your hand without foretell has foretell.
Whoa!
Its foretell cost is equal to its mana cost reduced by 2. And then whenever you foretell a card, Dream Devourer gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Who cares about that last part? How good is it to give all of your cards foretell?
I'm going to give this 2 thumbs up. And it reduces the mana cost.
Yeah.
If it, by the way, only has 1 generic mana in its mana cost, it's only going to reduce it by 1. But if it's like 2 black, then it just costs black. And you can foretell every single card in your hand for 2 mana. This seems really good.
It's good for a lot of reasons, and I think it's hard to parse why it's good. But one of the reasons that foretell is just good is that paying things in an installment plan is just inherently good, right? So if you have something and it costs 6 mana, if you can split that up as 4 mana and 2 mana, then instead of getting that out on turn 6, you can actually get it out on turn 4.
Right.
So that's like a big jump.
It's a big jump, yeah.
Yeah. So just on that level, foretell has this powerful ability to let you get things out a little bit early because you split the cost between a couple of different turns. Also, let's say Expropriate has foretell. The difference between casting Expropriate on turn 7 versus turn 9 can be pretty big.
Yeah.
It can be at a point where all of a sudden they're not ready for it. They don't have their counterspell up or whatever. And normally you just need 9 mana to cast it. But this says, no, you can just cast it early. So I think that's one reason that foretell is just very strong.
Yeah, and what you said earlier about foretell is really apt, which is like it protects against discarding. So because you just foretell the cards away and you always have access to them, even if Dream Devourer leaves the battlefield, and then if someone casts a Wheel of Fortune or whatever, cool, no problem. All of my cards have hidden away, or at least the ones I needed to protect from my hand.
Yeah, it is so good in wheel decks that have black because you get to foretell away your cards and then wheel.
Yeah.
And then you draw. It's like you got to hold some of the cards you had in your hand. They're still in your hand, kind of, right? Because they're foretold.
Yeah, it's and they're cheaper. It's like, we've always talked about how powerful it is to have your graveyard as a hand. This is an even less interactable hand that gives you mana discounts.
Yep. Really good with Necropotence because it will make you discard when you have too many cards at the end of turn, so you can just stow them away. Good with Memory Jar because when you use Memory Jar, all those cards kind of go away at the end of turn. You can stow them away. Really good with Mass Discard. So Mind Slicer, Ill-Gotten Gains, Awaken the Erstwhile. There's a ton of cards that make all players either discard their hands or most of their hands.
Yeah.
Mind Slicer, when it dies, all players discard their hands, right? Well, if you just go foretell these 3 things, sacrifice Mind Slicer, no one has cards in your hand. You still have your 4 foretell cards.
You can even foretell the Mind Slicer and get people out of nowhere because it's going to cost even cheaper because that card's not super cheap to cast.
Right.
I think it's like 5 mana, so now it costs 3 or whatever. And okay. I like this card a lot.
Yeah. I think it's very powerful. I think it's just hard to see, but I think this is the type of card that like a lot of situations can just be good for you and with no other synergy.
I think the moment that you cast this and then everyone goes, whatever, and then the next turn you're like, all right, I'm going to foretell these 4 cards out of my hand, and then I'm going to pass turn again.
Or Windfall.
And yeah, and everyone goes,
Correct.
okay, I have no idea what those are, but they're cheaper than before, and they're all terrifying.
And one of them is Mystic Reflection, probably.
Yeah, one
Actually,
of them,
that's the scary thing. Now, when people foretell normally, there's like 4 cards it could be, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's not that many from the set. But when you have Dream Devourer out, it could be any
Ugin.
card. Yeah. Exactly.
Who knows? Okay, the next card is Haunting Voyage, one of the rare foretell costs where the foretell cost is actually more expensive than the regular CMC. It's 4 black for a sorcery. Choose a creature type. Return up to 2 creature cards of that type from your graveyard to the battlefield. If this spell is foretold, return all creature cards of that type from your graveyard to the battlefield instead.
Well, that's why it's more expensive.
Yeah, and the foretell cost is 7 mana. So it's
only
actually,
one more?
Yeah, but it's 9 total because you have to pay 2 for it and then the additional 7. So,
But I mean, it's worth it because you get all of them instead of 2 of them.
2 of
right?
them, yeah. And again, this seems like you got to be playing a tribal deck for this to work.
Yeah. You have to have 25 creatures of the chosen type in your deck.
Yeah.
Because you have to be able to pay 9 mana and get at least like, how many creatures you got to get back for 9 mana? 5?
Yeah, I was going to say 6.
Otherwise, it's just not worth it.
Yeah, and I would say like 9 mana cards, Rise of the Dark Realms is very comparable, but that grabs creatures from everyone's yards. So you have to think about that, right? Like, would you rather just spend 9 in one turn or do it as early as 7? It's like a one-sided Patriarch's bidding. So I don't know. 7 mana is a lot. The question I always ask for foretell is the regular card worth it at 6?
Getting 2 for 6?
Yeah.
It's not the worst.
Command the Dreadhorde gets you 2 of anything, and Planeswalkers.
Command the Dreadhorde gets you way more than 2.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it costs 6. Yeah, this is not as... Yeah, you're right. When
Is
you
it better
compare it to
than-
Command the Dreadhorde. But Command the Dreadhorde is ridiculous.
Agadeem's
No, I get what
Awakening
you're saying,
too,
because
yeah.
they also have to be tribal. Yeah. Okay, you got me. I'm off
Seems
this
like
card.
a fun card to play. I would say, like, if you're playing the Inami Death's Aspect or Shirei Shizo Caretaker, because those have just tons of spirits, it might be interesting.
But they're all little.
Yeah.
You don't want to spend, 6 mana ever to get 2 of them, so you can only do the foretell side on those.
Yeah, it's true. Yuriko might be interesting, though, because she does have a lot of ninjas in the deck, and this is a high CMC card. So there is maybe something there, but I don't know. I wasn't too stoked on this just when I saw it. And
Yeah,
I think
I'm not
always
big
make
on it.
Better, yeah.
All right, one more black card. It's called Rise of the Dread Marn. 2 and a black for an instant. Create X 2/2 black zombie berserker creature tokens, where X is the number of non-token creatures that died this turn. And it has foretell for just 1 black.
Okay.
So this is
That's-
Thrilling Encore-esque, right? Not the exact same.
Foretell costs are driving me nuts. One
black, yeah.
We just had Jesperon talking about how 1 mana cards are the most powerful thing in Magic, and now all of these Foretell cards are basically that.
It seems very, very good in the face of a board wipe. It's very easy to hold up
Yeah.
1 black mana. Not as good as Thrilling Encore, obviously, in that you don't get the specific creatures that died back, but just getting like, hey, okay, well, I'll just end up with 8 zombies.
Yeah, the non-token part I think kind of hurts.
Yeah.
But you could draw so many cards if you have that Gravecrawler Phyrexian Ultra combo going. Look, we broke it.
Yeah,
did it.
Yeah, you make so many zombies, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Gravecrawler Phyrexian Altar already kind of wins, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this pairs well with Mystic Reflection too.
Oh, yeah, because so if you have both of those foretold off there, it's a blue and a black, and you're just hoping someone casts a board wipe.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, I'm going to make 9 although it can't be a board wipe, you need a target.
It has to be instant speed. Yeah.
You need a target for Mystic Reflection.
Oh, right.
So you need something to have lived through it. That you can
Indestructible.
copy. Yeah.
Tolsky, the squirrel. It's legendary. Crap.
Well, I'm sure you could pull it off somehow, everybody out there.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Mystic Reflection and Rise of the Dreadmarn. Yeah.
There's actually one other black card we didn't talk about. It's the mini precon one. Pact
Oh,
of the
we
Serpent.
skipped it. Okay.
Yeah, so this is 1 black for a sorcery. Choose a creature type. Target player draws X cards and loses X life, where X is the number of creatures they control of the chosen type. X is going to give it to you. So this is, again,
What's it called again?
Pact of the Serpent.
Okay.
It's from the mini precon. It's interesting because, again, you're choosing a creature type, and then target player draws X cards and loses X life, where X is the number of creatures they control of the chosen type. So
You can
typically,
use it as a kill spell sometimes.
yeah, if they're like, I'm elf tribal, I put out 1,000 elves, you Pact of the Serpent them. But this is sorcery speed, so you kind of have to do it on your turn. Otherwise, this is 1 black. I mean, if you're drawing 5 cards off of this, but at that point, you also have 5 creatures on the battlefield, so you're doing pretty good. I just think...
But sometimes in that situation, you don't have any cards in your hand because that's why your battlefield looks good. You cast all your cards, so...
Yeah, so I think this is fine. Again, you got to be in that 25-plus creature tribal deck, I think, that you talked about.
All right, how did black fare overall?
Dream Devourer is a standout to me.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
I really like Dream Devourer.
Yeah, everything else just kind of seems in line with Black normally does, bringing stuff back from the graveyard.
I think Rise of the Dreadmarn is pretty
yeah.
solid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that.
The rest are all like, Burning Rune Demon is a solid card too. So,
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's a tutor, and I think it's a better tutor than the white one that we have.
and you said you thought it was better than Runescarred Demon at least a lot of the time, and Runescarred Demon sees a decent amount of play, so.
Yeah, and generally you want to cheat this card out too. So, I mean, I just feel like Black they're bolstering their profile. It was a good quarter for them. Their earnings are up. White is just like, everyone's looking at the stock and being like, I don't know, should I short sell? She's just like one of those.
Don't short these days.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Should I invest in Dogecoin?
Yeah, I want to invest in Dogecoin. I got a Doge. Okay.
You're not invested in Dogecoin?
I tried to sign up for a website and it's like verify, and I'm like me and about 10 million other people right now trying to get on this website.
Yeah, they were very cheap when I got in. It was like 2 cents or something, and I have like 10,000 shares. So
Nice, dude. Well, it's almost at $1. Congrats.
It's not always at $1. It's at like 10 cents.
Okay. Oh, we're dreaming it gets to $1.
Even if it's $1, I think I make like,
Not
$50
that
or
much,
something
yeah.
because I didn't buy that much. I just want to be involved. Everybody else was talking about it. I just want
You
to have
got
some skin
FOMO.
in the game. Yeah.
I do have FOMO about everything recently. I'm like, oh man, this is like the kind of thing I would have obsessed over in high school and college.
Yeah. The funny thing is that people are watching this or listening to it like a week or 10 days after it happened.
knows
So they're
what's
going to be like,
happening now?
yeah, exactly. They're going to be like, oh, you idiot. Or else, man, now it's worth $100. Oh, man, I hope it gets out that high.
Dogecoin, yeah.
Yeah.
The one, Ethereum and all the cool
I was like,
sounding
Dogecoin,
names.
this has to be a trick.
Yeah. Well, when I first saw it, I was like, this is great. I'm glad that we're memeing our cryptocurrency. And now look at where we're at, geez.
All right.
Okay.
Let's move on to red cards.
We could talk about that all day.
Yeah.
It's so insane.
It's already going to be a 3-hour long episode.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. The first red card is called Calamity Bearer. It's 2 red for a giant berserker. It's a 3/4. If a giant source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. I don't think we have to say a lot about this card. It's not that different than most of the other damage doublers. It's just giant specific, right?
Giant specific. There's cards like Quakebringer that are going to do a lot of damage, and you'll be able to do that splash damage with that. Thundercloud Shaman, Stinkdrinker Daredevil, Tectonic Giant, Surtland Flinger, and then if you're going to run it in a giant deck, Calamity or Brian Stoutarm.
You better run it in a giant deck because it's only good if you have enough giants. I think this is one where you don't necessarily need 25 giants.
No.
You just need your main sources of damage are giants. So if your commander's a giant and it deals damage, that could be a possibility.
Yeah.
All right, the next one's pretty cool. It's called Crush the Weak. I didn't have that. Couldn't find that card, so I had to bring it up on my phone.
Oh, okay. You want me to find it?
No, I got it. It's 2 in a red for a sorcery. Crush the Weak. Crush the Weak.
Not Goldspan
Not
Dragon.
Goldspan Dragon. Crush the Weak. Okay.
Dragons are not weak.
We're all on the same page, right? Crush the Weak? Okay.
Yeah, crushing.
2 in a red for a sorcery. Crush the Weak deals 2 damage to each creature. If a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. And it has a foretell cost of just red.
Is it an instant?
No, it's a sorcery.
So that's a bit of a bummer there because normally with this kind of card, right, if it deals damage, if it dies this way, you could like do another damage spell and then this spell, and that's like what's going to kill them.
I do like this though because the foretell is particularly good on a card like that because red has so many damage increasers now. It's the type of thing where like, I don't really want to play it on 3. I don't want to wait till Torbrand's out or Toralf's out or Fire Emancipation is out. And it's difficult to cast Fire Emancipation and a spell that damages everything in the same turn, but not if it costs 1 red mana. That's why Blasphemous Act is so good with those cards, right? So I do like how this is set up just with the way they design red these days and the way that, we want to double the damage or triple it.
Triple it, yeah. And not to mention it exiles the cards it kills. That can actually be a huge game, especially against those types of decks that are going to want to get their cards back.
Man, if you get Toralf and Fire Emancipation, if you get Toralf and Fire Emancipation out, you're just going to win no matter what.
Yeah. And then you're going to be like, why wasn't this Blasphemous Act?
All right, the next one is Goldspan Dragon. 3 red for a 4/4 dragon, flying in haste. Whenever Goldspan Dragon attacks or becomes the target of a spell, create a treasure token. And then treasures you control have tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 2 mana of any one color. So it's Treasure Harmonicon.
Yeah, this seems
That really
cool.
made sense, but you know what I mean.
You're doubling up your treasure.
Treasuring season.
Treasuring season. You know what this is, Josh? This is mono red ramp.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it is not efficient ramp, but it can be, I think. This is
It's not bad. A 5 mana 4/4 flying dragon that actually makes treasures.
Yeah.
That's actually like pretty efficient just there.
Someone's got to Smaug alter this immediately.
That's cool.
Yeah. This is obviously really good in Magda Brazen Outlaw, which is the deck
yeah.
I played on game nights because the treasures you sack now sack for 2. And you can also search out the Goldspan Dragon with the treasures, which feels really thematic.
That deck was sweet and made a lot of treasure. I was surprised by the number of treasures you were able to make in that game. We won't spoil it, but it's a lot.
It was treasurific.
You had this card in that deck, right?
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Oh, it would have been so awesome. Sometimes you had 10 treasure.
I know. 20 mana. Oh. Are you going to play this in your Feather the Redeem deck?
Oh, interesting.
Because you have a lot of spells that can target Feather itself.
It becomes a target spell creator. I might. Because every time you target the Goldspan, then I don't know. I'd think about it.
Yeah. What about, I mean, a lot of them are cards that draw a card too. So you draw a card and make a treasure that creates 2 mana, and maybe that's
and then it's mana to cast more spells. And a lot of times that's the thing stopping the Feather deck is it doesn't have enough mana. It has plenty of cards and spells to cast, but not enough mana.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's the same for like a Zada, the Hedron Grinder deck that like.
Oh god, it would be so good in Zada.
Yeah, that Manson played. Brudiclad obviously has lots of things that want to like copy its stuff.
Brudiclad.
Dockside
Extortionist, blah, blah,
blah, blah.
Yeah.
It does go infinite with a lot of cards. There's like a whole set of them. Flickering Ward, Crown of Flames, Shimmering Wings, Whip Silk. So Flickering Ward, we'll just read one of them. It's a white enchantment. When you play it, you choose a color. Enchanted creature gains protection from the chosen color. But more importantly, you can pay a white man to return Flickering Ward to its owner's hand. So you cast it on the dragon. It makes a treasure. You can sack the treasure for 2 white, return it, recast it, and then boom, you have infinite stuff.
That's pretty cool.
So then you have like Anointed Procession or something, go nuts. And then like obviously cards like Reckless Fireweaver will give you infinite kill because of all the artifacts entering.
Artifacts ETB, yep.
Arcbound Crusher, Gonti's Ether Heart gives you infinite energy, Grinding Station. So a bunch of different ways.
What was the one I used in Togo deck where you tap 2 artifacts and deal 1 damage?
Gearport Ether Grid.
Yeah, that would eventually do it, right?
Yeah, I think so. If you found a way to,
If you have Annoying Procession.
Yeah, because So good stuff. I think like Goldspan Dragon seems like a really fun card. And I love the design. I love that it's a dragon. Feels very red. Doesn't feel...
Allowing red to tap or use their treasure for 2 mana is a good way to give them some ramp that feels like red.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And just I think red and white, I think Wizards is just like, your ramp is treasure. That's what you get. Your card draw is shards or whatever, All
right. Let's see if this next card feels like red to you, Jimmy.
Oh, boy. This one is interesting.
It's Tybalt's Trickery. 1 and a red for an instant. Has pretty sweet art. All right. It starts off with an interesting sentence for a mono red card. It says, counter target spell.
Ooh.
Choose 1, 2, or 3 at random.
Okay.
Its controller mills that many cards, then exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card with a different name than the spell that was countered. If they may they may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then put the exiled cards on the bottom of the library in the random order. So, Jimmy casts a spell. I Tybalt's Trickery. I roll a 3-sided dice that says 2. That means Jimmy mills 2, and then he flips cards from the top of his library.
Or mills 1 if it's 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 to 6, right?
Right. I said 3 sided
sure.
dice. But yeah, okay.
3-sided dice. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have those, right?
I don't think so.
They have 4-sided dice.
Yeah, I'm like sitting here being like, it's a triangle.
I counter Jimmy's spell. I roll a 6-sided dice. It's a 1. Jimmy mills 1.
Yeah, okay, great.
And then he flips cards from the top of his library until he hits a non-land card.
That's not this card that you countered.
That's not the card that I countered.
Yeah. Rarely
That's
relevant.
only for standard because you'd have multiple
or like
copies.
Shadowborn Apostles or something.
Yeah. And then he can cast that spell without paying its mana cost.
Okay.
So a lot of people are comparing this to Chaos Warp, but it's not.
It's not.
Because Chaos Warp, you can whiff, and you often do. You hit a land, or you hit an instant or sorcery or something. Mm-hmm. You cannot whiff with Tybalt's Trickery. Jimmy's getting something.
Yeah, and I get to cast it as well, so I get those triggers. It's interesting because the part where it's like mill anywhere between 1 and 3 is like, haha, you can't just brainstorm in response and put something on top because it might get milled away.
Right.
So it's sort of like adding that little ability on top. This is interesting. I feel like in a lot of decks, if you're going to use this, it's to save you so you can win immediately the next turn. Like if you have a Krenko deck and someone goes board wipe, you don't care what they flip off the top of their library because once it gets to your turn, you're winning no matter what. Or like Magda, right? Like someone goes, get rid of your dwarves. You're like, nope, I'm going to counter it. I don't care if you get Eldrazi out because when it's my turn, I'm just going to win.
Yeah, I play a lot of Lapse of Certainty, which is a white sort of version of this. It's not the exact same, obviously, because they don't get something right now. But it's the same philosophy, which is like, because Lapse of Certainty puts the spell on top of their library, so they can draw it again next turn. But so the philosophy is it's bad right now. And there's often things that are so bad right now that they're game losing. So you don't care. You're just saying anything but that, because I'm going to lose to that.
Right. It doesn't matter if you full counter the spell or half counter it. Just stopping it saves you from losing.
So whatever else they get is just a lower percentage chance that I lose the game to it. It could be bad. Could be Blightsteel Colossus. That's bad. But again, unless they have haste, it's probably not game losing.
Yep.
So I'm okay with whatever a random thing is, because it also could just be Rampant Growth or Cultivate, you know? So I think this card's actually quite good. Obviously, if you've got blue in your deck, you never ever run it. But in all the other situations where you don't have blue and you're in red, I could see this being a card you put in your deck because it will save you most of the time when a game-ending thing is happening. Yeah.
I mean, I already play red Elemental Blast in my mono red decks. It seems like a really fun thing to self-counter yourself with.
Oh, you can
you
also
can flip over something crazy. If you have like a Rat Colony or a Shadowborn Apostles deck, you can build it in a way so that when you counter it, you guaranteed get out a massive scary thing.
If you have a Scroll Rack in your deck,
definitely one. Yeah, Scroll Rack is a great pair with this. If you have a Drannith Magistrate or a Rule of Law, it's a hard counter because Drannith Magistrate says you can't cast spells from anywhere but your hand, and Rule of Law says you can only cast one spell a turn. So in that case, you counter it, they can't actually cast the spell they get.
Nice.
So they mill and do all that stuff.
All right, so how do we think red did? We didn't talk about a lot of cards, but they were all kind of cool. I guess Calamity Bear is not that interesting.
I mean, and let's not forget that Mono Red also had a lot of help with Magda that's another version of Red Ramp. So we actually have 2 legit versions of Red Ramp. No, 3, because Birgi also ramps based on the spells you're casting.
Oh, I like the horn side of Birgi a lot too. So Red's done very well in the set. But I mean, just in the 99 cards, they did only okay, right?
Pretty good for Tybalt's Trickery. The red gets a counterspell. I think that and blue getting an exile and artifact is like, okay, what is happening?
But white cannot get card draw. Like, we absolutely can't let that happen. Don't talk crazy. Don't talk crazy.
Slow your roll. Slow your roll. This game has integrity.
Yeah, color pie. All right, let's go on to the green cards. The first one's called Battle Mammoth.
Vote for best name of the set.
3 green for a 6/5 elephant. Has trample. Whenever a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you may draw a card.
Okay.
And then it has foretell for 2 green.
Okay. This is just like a standard big green creature beater. Obviously insanely good in standard and limited, I think.
Oh, yeah.
But, compare this to Runic Armasaur, which is a card that literally stopped Josh's deck from functioning one time on game nights.
I mean, yeah, I find it hard to come up with a scenario where Battle Mammoth is as good as that, because you generally don't have a deck that's like casting spells at your permanents, multiple times a turn, like an activated ability could happen. Have you looked at the card Shaper's Sanctuary?
Is it in this set?
No, it's 1 and a green for an enchantment that says whenever a permanent you control becomes the target of a spell or ability, draw a card.
Okay, so it's an enchantment, and it's a rare, too. It's from Ixalan.
Yeah, in Commander, I feel like you would just rather play the enchantment all the time, and we never see Shaper Savant on the battlefield as it is.
Shaper Sanctuary, yeah, you're right.
Oh, yeah, Shaper Sanctuary. Shaper Savant's a different card. That's Venser. Yeah, Shaper Sanctuary. Right? I mean, how many times have you ever seen Shaper Sanctuary on the battlefield?
Hot 0.
But it's better than Battle Mammoth, right?
Yep.
So
unless you want the creature or the creature type or whatever it is, so yeah.
Maybe this is good in those decks that say, they care about 4 power or greater or whatever.
Okay. Yeah. And
then you get the ability, but you also want the big creature. Maybe. I don't know. I don't think it's that great. I think you're right. It's for stand.
Anytime Josh and I are like, maybe.
That means
just
no.
Like every maybe
not.
You just take another like letter grade out of it until we get to where we actually sit on it.
All right, let's go to the next green card. It's Asika's Chariot. Asika's Chariot. I want to say
the cutest
Eskia.
art in the set. For
Oh, I'm looking at the showcase art. It's not very cute.
Oh, okay.
It's 2
you're
wolves.
Right.
Yeah, I was like, cute. I mean, they're cute wolves. Okay,
Yeah.
Asika's Chariot. 3 and a green, 4 mana for a 4/4 vehicle. When it enters the battlefield, you create 2 2/2 cat tokens. And then whenever Asika's Chariot attacks, create a token that's a copy of target token you control.
Okay, so you can make more cats.
And then you can crew 4. It's crew 4.
Oh, okay.
Big crew cost. But both the cats could crew this. And then on attack, you make another cat, I guess.
Yep.
If that's the best thing you can do.
Yep.
You could also make a token copy of better stuff.
Yeah, I'm going to say that this is obviously making copies of tokens is great when you have big, crazy tokens. Maybe Sublime Epiphany, they got a cool token.
Mythos of Iluna's kind of a new
one
that makes
right.
cool tokens of stuff.
Yeah.
Orvar, which we talked about extensively on the last episode, can make weird token copies of like lands.
Yep.
Of course, if you're in an Orvar deck, you can't have an Asika's Chariot because it's green.
I would put this in the Jor-El deck. I played this on the M21 game nights because Jor-El makes 2/2 green cat creature tokens, which is cute. But it's like, that's just it. That's just like a thematic thing. So I think this is fine if you're just going to have your token doublers, your Anointed Processions, your new Vorinclex. Oh, not your new Vorinclex, sorry.
Doubling season.
Your Doubling Season, Parallel Lives, all that stuff.
Right. Vorinclex only does counters, not tokens. It's confusing.
Yeah.
All right.
Not too amazing.
So the next card was a card, when I looked at it the first time, I was like, that card's insanely broken. And then as you start to break it down and read it closer, it becomes way more reasonable. And then at the end of it, I was like, oh, it's okay. Here we go. In Search of Greatness. Green for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may cast a permanent spell from your hand with converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the highest converted mana cost among other permanents you control without paying its mana cost. If you don't, scry 1. So let's walk through this. At the beginning of your upkeep, you look at your board and you don't count Search of Greatness. It says Other.
Right.
And you say, what is the highest CMC of a thing I have on the battlefield? Let's say it's 3 CMC. In Search of Greatness says you can cast a 4 CMC exactly thing from your hand, and it has to be a permanent.
Right.
Without paying its mana cost.
And if you can't do any of that.
Yeah, then you scry 1. So if you only have a 3 CMC thing or 5 or more, you don't have any that are 4, because it has to be exactly 1 plus the highest CMC of the thing you've got. It's not that or less.
Right. I could see this being in your sort of stereotypical birthing pod decks because your whole deck is built around the idea of 1 plus more. But in general, I think this is... You wrote down here the perfect sentence, which is it reads much better than it plays.
Yeah. We've seen it in play, and very often you don't get a thing off of it. And you have to really get like 2 cards off of this before you've got much advantage, because you did spend the In Search of Greatness as a card. Right. And then, the next turn, what can you cheat out? Something 3 or 4 mana that's not that game breaking. I know everyone's envisioning like, I'm going to get a 7 CMC thing into play for free. Well, yeah, you can, but you need a 6 CMC thing out and this and a 7 CMC thing in your hand at the right moment
to exactly have it happen.
It's just a lot to line up, and it doesn't actually tend to happen.
Yeah, I think when it does, you're celebrating, you're having a blast, and when it doesn't, you're just scrying 1 for 2 mana on the card. And then you want to compare it to Lifecrafters Bestiary, which is 3 mana, what always will upkeep scry you 1, and then lets you draw cards every time you cast a creature spell by paying green. So I think it's kind of right in that realm. It's not amazing. It looks better than it definitely is.
I think if you have a good spread along the curve, especially like if you have 4, 5, and 6, and there's a decent amount of stuff in all those categories, then this becomes a little bit better. I mean, Jimmy, would you be happy with a 2-mana enchantment that just scries you 1 every turn?
I think if you can guarantee to get it out on turn 2 every game, yes.
Oh, that's a good point, because
otherwise,
turn 9, and it's really bad on turn 9 because you often have like a 7 drop out. In which case,
yeah, that's right. This card gets worse, actually, the more the game goes and the more stuff you put out, I think.
Ooh, I like it less and less. I actually think it's not good now.
I think
I went from like, this is insane and broken to actually, wait, let me read it. No, it's not that good.
I think, again, it really is. If you can always get this out early in the game, then the value is going to be there. You're going to have the board that will support the ability to go from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, whatever. But later on, it just quickly decreases in quality. And at that point, turn 9, you definitely want Lifecrafters Bestiary much more.
Oh, yeah, you want the card draw.
The card draw, yeah.
Okay.
This next one's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, it's called Masked Vandal. He must live through 2020. 1 and a green for a 1/3. 2 mana for a 1/3 shapeshifter. Has changeling, so this card is every creature type. When Masked Vandal enters the battlefield, you may exile a creature card from your graveyard. If you do, exile target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. Man, everybody just get an exile.
So you have to be able to exile something from your own graveyard to do so. Green is one of the better colors, obviously, of putting stuff in there. But when you do, you exile an artifact or an enchantment for 2 mana on the changeling. So this, like, arguably, you're putting this into your tribal decks over Reclamation Sage.
Even in an elf deck, maybe you would put it in over.
Oh, wow.
You probably just play both, but like it's a changeling, so it is an elf.
Yeah.
It's 2 mana.
It's
card is really
good. Yeah.
I mean, It doesn't work great early because you're unlikely to have things in your graveyard. And I think you want to put it in a deck that is purposely going to have some, at least side focus of the deck is to get some stuff into the graveyard.
Yeah.
But a lot of green decks do that.
And again, you're not casting this on turn 2, so you're not trying to like turbo mill yourself to get it in there. This is obviously coming down much later. And I will say that like there are times when I have to cast a 3-mana and get rid of something. I'm like, I wish this was cheaper.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. I'm putting this in my rune deck probably in place of Reclamation Sage.
Wow.
Because 2 mana is just so much better. And later turns, you can play this and something else, blink it, exile 2 things from your graveyard, kill 2 things. Like,
yeah,
I like
exile
it.
is very
that one
powerful.
extra mana might just be the mana I need to activate rune to blink this thing. Whereas Rex Sage, I would need 5 mana to do that.
Yeah. You just need to make sure that you have stuff in your graveyard.
Yeah.
That's the only downside. But again, there are probably, I think this is less of a downside than people think.
But it's also going to be more of a downside than people think.
Yeah. Especially because if you're doing it with the rune thing, like by the time you get to 5 or 6, then maybe you've run out of cards.
Yeah. So you'll know when you play it, and if you play it a few times and you notice like, oh, it's actually harder than I thought to exile that creature from my graveyard, then it's probably the wrong deck for it.
Yeah.
And then the decks where you're like, I've never had to worry about having a creature to exile in my graveyard, well, that's the right deck for it.
Just play Nature's Claim instead.
Yeah. All right. The last green card we're going to talk about is Realm Walker. 2 and a green for a 2/3 shapeshifter, has Changeling. As it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type. You may look at the top card of your library at any time, and you may cast creature spells of the chosen type from the top of your library.
Wow. Okay, this is already better than Herald's Horn, which is a 3-mana. And Herald's Horn is colorless because Herald's Horn is an upkeep trigger, yeah. And it does reduce the casting cost, but again, I think this is just better for green because it also is a creature that is going to fit in your tribal deck.
Yep. It does just give you knowledge of the top card of your library, which can be useful. It's good with Sylvan Library, which already exists in green, obviously, Sensei's Divining Top, Scroll Rack, because you can put the cards there or put them to the top and then cast them. So if you're already playing those cards, it gets a lot better. Because of Changeling, maybe is it good enough for like almost any tribe that's touching green? I made that sentence and then I asked this question, Jimmy. How many times have you seen Vizier of the Menagerie on the battlefield lately?
I think I've seen Craig play it once.
And that card lets you play any creature off the top of your library.
Right, and this one's only tribal. Interesting.
And it costs, Vizier costs 4 mana, this costs 3. But I think before we get too excited, let's think about Vizier of the Menagerie.
Yeah, and green, by the way, has had this effect a lot, which is look at the top card of your library, cast it. We've seen it on one of our, who's our bow lady again?
Vivian. Jeez.
Yeah.
Who's our bow lady? Cupid?
So I think this
it's almost Valentine's Day.
This is a good card because it's 3 mana and it's great for tribal. I think that's really when you're going to be playing it most.
I don't even know if it's great for tribal.
Really?
Thinking about Vizier of the Menagerie and how that's just a card that like we thought was going to be able to see a lot of play, it just doesn't. It's if that was good, this would be good, but it's not that good.
Yeah, I guess what this does ultimately read is you get an extra card in your hand. This will always sort of like keep your max hand size.
It's like a percentage of a card.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to work on lands and, artifacts, and it's only of that creature type. So in the most tribally of tribal decks, it's going to be like, what, a third of your deck?
Yeah.
So it's like a third of a card every turn. Okay. I mean, if you can manipulate it, I think it becomes a lot better. But I think this card is another one that just reads better than it plays.
The main thing to note is that there's a ton of tribal support in this set. So if you've been looking to build tribal, now's your chance. Okay, we're done with green. How do you think green did here, Josh?
Kind of meh. I mean, Mass Vandal is probably the card we're going to see the most out of this group. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think so for sure. It's got the ability just to be ubiquitous. Like I said before, everything else, Battle of Mammoth, Eskis Chariot.
But I mean, Mass Vandal is also a card that like is an upgrade over an existing card. It does exile, which is better than destroying, and it costs less, but it's not like a new thing that green's gotten to do. They're just a little bit better at this thing that they're already kind of good at. So I don't think that changes much for green. So I think green kind of fared kind of poorly here, pretty meh, which is fine. Green doesn't need any help.
Well, if their best card is not a rare or a mythic, that says a lot too. And it seems like green is just like more like, cool, we have even more trouble than before, and that is just another upside to Mass Vandal.
All right, let's go into multicolored cards. We're on the home stretch here. Only 3 pages of outline left to go.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Elderfang Venom is what it's called. It's from the mini precons, and this is actually going to be the only multicolored card we're going to talk about that's not a saga.
Oh, interesting.
Because all the other ones are legendary creatures we already talked about. So Elderfang Venom, 2 black-green for an enchantment. Attacking elves you control have death touch, and whenever an elf you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life.
Oh, okay. So we've seen this again very recently with a lot of elf cards. They're starting to become Aristocrats E. And giving them all death touch is obviously great. Kind of fits in with the whole Tyvar Kell thing too, because he gives them a death touch.
Yep. And the green-black version of elves tends to be elftocrats, so more sacking and stuff. And we found that like the enchantment versions of Blood Artist are can still be good. Bastion of Remembrance kind of already exists, but this is kind of a similar thing. So it could be a game under Poison Tipped Archer, I think, is the one.
Yeah.
It's very similar to this.
Them, yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, at the end of the day, I think you want to be... The tribal aspect of this is huge. If you have a changeling deck, this seems pretty good because then Aru creatures have death touch, and when they die, you do the aristocrats thing. But I think you're getting a little farther away from, because the all changeling decks seems to, I don't know if it has a specific strategy, but like going we're going to give them all, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life whenever creatures die. I don't know if that's the payoff you're looking for.
It might be though. It's hard to tell. Attacking with death touch, I don't know. So what we're referring to here is what I'm going to call the All Tribes deck. And this is a deck that seems to be coming together in recent years, and they've given a lot of tools in this deck, which allows you to build your deck in a way that all your creatures are kind of multiple tribes. And so you can pick and choose your tribal payoffs for that deck. You're going to put all the same creatures in that have changeling and kind of fit this mold of like they are all the creatures. And then you're going to say, what are the best tribal payoffs out there, and put them in the deck. And I think that like Elderfang Venom is not going to be one of the best tribal payoffs. It's not going to go in that deck.
Definitely not. It's also a 4-mana enchantment that is specifically, half the card benefits you attacking. So if that's not your strategy, then that's going to be off the chain. And if you're not off the chain, off the map or whatever. And if you're not sacrificing, it's off the chain, sick. And if you're not sacrificing them for aristocrats types effects, then you're losing out on that too. Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the sagas. Listen, there are a bajillion sagas. So
many.
Yeah, we could talk about all of them. There's too many for us to actually talk about in this episode. So we're just going to talk about a few that we think are going to be playable outside of a dedicated either enchantment or saga deck. If you've got a saga deck or you want to build one or an enchantment deck, then sagas are probably going to be for you. But for the most part, sagas have a very sort of niche usage. And so we're just going to talk about a few of them that we think could see play in decks that don't have other sagas or aren't like counter manipulation decks or something that aren't playing around with saga specific things. So,
and if you want to talk about them more, then jump on our Discord, because that's where we can have that kind of conversation. Okay, this first one I'm so excited about, Josh.
Pretty cool.
Forging the Tyrite Sword. It's 1 a red and a white for an enchantment saga. So again, the way these work, as the saga enters the battlefield and after your draw step, you add a lore counter on it, and depending on what the number of lore counters are, a certain thing will trigger. And you sacrifice it after the third one. So the first 2, when you play it and on your next post-draw step, create a treasure token. So this is 3 mana ramp in red and white.
Yep.
And then the third one is, when you get to 3 lore counters, search your library for a card named Halvar, God of Battle, or an equipment card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. Hey.
So it goes and finds an equipment, probably. You could have Halvar in your deck.
You could have Halvar. If you're Halvar, again, it's like gives your creatures double strike when they're equipped, and then you can like move equipment around, which is kind of cool, and it also can be sort of the realms on the backside.
But I've been known to just play Steel Shaper's Gift in quite a few decks, because if you have Skull Clamp in your deck, well, that's the best card in your deck probably, and you want to find it. Or if you have Sword of Feast and Famine, something like that, you can always have like 1 or 2 really impactful equipments that are good to find. And then you're right, this like makes it so that on turn 4 you have 5 mana, or on turn 5 maybe you have 7 mana, because you can actually save up the 2 treasures, which is pretty powerful.
Yeah, it's cool too, because I think you don't want to tutor out. You don't want to turn 3 Steel Shaper's Gift necessarily, unless you're getting your
need
best
a creature out, right? So.
Yeah. And if you're like, cool, my table has this, everyone's running black, then you're definitely going to get the sword that gives you pro black. If you need hexproof because everyone's running single target removal, you're definitely gonna get your boots. So I like that you get a little more knowledge before you go tutor something up.
Yeah, you don't need. I think what we're both saying is you don't need a dedicated equipment deck for this to be good in that deck. You just need probably 2 good pieces of equipment, which a lot of decks have. Because like you said, Lightning Greaves and Sword of Feast and Fan, or
Feast and Famine, yeah.
Skull Clamp. Like a lot of decks just have those cards because they're just good in many decks. And so you can run this card in there because you're going to get the mana value and then you're going to get the tutor value.
Yeah.
So I really like that. And obviously if you have Goldspan Dragon, then this card gets a lot better.
It's Boros Ramp, though. That's so freaking cool.
I like this. I like them saying, like, okay, treasure is the way that we're going to help them.
Yeah.
And they're right. Like, that is a good way to give it to them. And never mind if you can manipulate the counters on this somehow. Like, there's, like, Power Conduit, which could take away a counter. And so you could just end up getting a treasure counter every turn.
Right.
Yeah, stuff like that. So, obviously, you'd have to have more synergies in your deck for Power Conduit to be good, right? Don't just run it because you have this one card in your
Yeah, you want to
deck.
be, like, in the Saga deck or the Counters Matters type deck.
But if you just happen to have those pieces, you could make some other use of it. Also, you can bounce Sagas back to your hand and replay them to get sort of more value out of them, depending. So this one's not a great one for that. But yeah, I like that card quite a bit.
This next one is great, too.
All right, it's called Showdown of the Scalds. It's 2 red, blue.
Red-white.
Sorry, red-white. Why did I say blue? 2...
Because we want white to be as good as blue. That's why.
2 red, white, 4 mana. The first chapter is exile the top 4 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards.
4 mana draw 4, kind of.
Yeah, that's really good. I'll play Ambition's Cost, which is 4 mana draw 3 in black sometimes.
And this is red-white, too. They don't have many things that do this.
It's a downside. You have to play all those cards before the end of your next turn.
At least you get until then, which is nice.
Yeah, you don't
so you
have
can
to do it this
untap.
turn, but yeah.
You can play the lands, which is good, too.
And that has 2 more chapters, which are less exciting, but whatever. Whenever you cast a spell this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. That's both Chapter 2 and Chapter 3.
Yep. Assuming you play this, you exile 4 cards. Next turn, you untap. It's the second chapter. Now, when you cast those spells, you make your creatures bigger.
Yep.
But the first part seems really good. And this is when I think you'd want to be playing those effects that you can get rid of counters, like Ion Storm, Power Conduit.
Yeah, because now you created a card draw engine. A big one. 4 cards every time.
Yeah. Or
you can Power Conduit every turn.
Oh. Yeah, you're just getting 4 cards. In fact, there's ways to add and take stuff off, too. That just seems really powerful to me.
This is a card, too, I think is fine to bounce or flicker. Because, even recasting it for 4 and getting to draw 4 again is fine. But if you flicker it, then it just resets it, right?
Right.
So if I have permanent flicker or ways to bounce permanents, and white does have a few ways to do these type of things, that goes very well with this card.
I like Ferropede a lot. It's a random 3 mana 1/1 that can't be blocked as an artifact creature. And then whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may remove a counter from target permanent. So it gets to a 2/2 because it gets a +1/+1 counter because you cast something or whatever. You swing, it can't be blocked, deals the damage, go back to 1, exile 4 cards.
It's pretty sweet.
And then you just have this Ferropede growing in size every single turn.
I think you can only get the draw when it goes up to, when you add a counter. So you have to go back to 0.
Back down? Oh, okay.
You can go to 0 and then back to 1.
Okay,
That's
great.
what you want.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Pretty cool. I like this card a lot, and I like this design, and I'm happy that they're going in that direction. I hope they keep doing it.
Me too. Let's keep it up, WotC.
All right.
This next one is an interesting one. It's called Waking the Trolls. Probably the weakest of the 3 here. It's 4, a red and a green with 3 chapters. First chapter is Destroy Target Land. Second chapter is Put Target Land card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control.
From a graveyard.
And the third chapter is Choose Target Opponent. If they control fewer lands than you, create a number of 4/4 green troll warrior creature tokens with trample equal to the difference. So if I have 10 lands and Josh has 5, I make 5 4/4 warrior trample tokens.
And remember, you destroyed one of their lands and then stole it out of their graveyard and put it on your side.
Yep. Now, in a multiplayer game, obviously, you may choose someone else and then choose someone else for the third chapter or whatever.
You choose the white player because they don't have very many lands.
And they'll hate you forever. 6 mana destroy target land, not great, but this does seem like a fun, if you want to like have a meme or win condition in the lands decks that isn't just any of the other ways that lands decks normally win. Because it's like, haha, I have 15 lands and you have 2, 5 or whatever. I make a bunch of trolls and they got trample.
Yeah, I think this could see a little bit of play in the lands decks, the sort of less optimized ones, because the ability to destroy a land, get lands back, and then your lands matter for how many tokens you get is pretty big. And a lot of times those lands decks are pretty good at getting 25 lands into play, but not figuring out what the heck to do with it. And I'm happy if they're just like, oh, this will make me, 12 4/4. Oh, good. Now you can win the game and put us out of our misery, rather than just sitting watching you put your land in the graveyard and get it back out over and over again. Yeah. This is really good with Evolution Sage.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you can play this, destroy a land, play a land.
Goes up to 2.
This goes up to 2. Get the land out of the graveyard. That brings it up to 3, and now you get the trolls right now.
Okay. It's still a 6 mana saga, so it doesn't seem that awesome.
Yeah, it's not broken. And then it's like, what do you get after doing all of that? 6 4/4s.
Yeah.
Still good, but
I feel like if you're in the Lord Windgrace deck, you're going to have better ways of getting lands onto the battlefield.
well, you definitely have that. But I don't know if you have better ways to win the game because Lord Windgrace is pretty bad about actually ending things.
So maybe Waking the Trolls is the wake-up call that this deck needs to get, you win with trolls.
You win with trolls.
It's the internet.
Yeah, I do often feel like when I'm playing against a land deck that they are trolling me. Anyway, okay.
So the Wizards, apparently.
All right, artifacts.
All right.
We're done with cards that have color in them.
Thank goodness.
The
Now we
first-
have to-
yeah.
Now these cards can go in any deck. Great.
The first one is Cosmos Elixir. It's 4 mana for an artifact. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card if your life total is greater than your starting life total. Otherwise, you gain 2 life.
Okay, so why isn't this a white card is what everyone's asking.
I have no idea how to answer that question. Because they
White loves
made...
life gain.
Yeah. I guess they didn't need to make it a white card because it would be very difficult to play outside of a white deck. So it's de facto white.
People were saying this should be 1 white, only 3 mana instead of 4. And that would seem like a pretty sweet card. And
Then it's like white's Phyrexian Altar if it's that, right?
Yeah, totally. That's
Yeah.
a good way of putting it.
I like that, and I think that is the problem with this card is that it's a little bit overcosted, and it's a little worse than you think it is. How often are you going to have more life than your starting life total? Because it's really, really bad if you don't, because it's 4 mana and it just doesn't do anything.
Anytime past turn 4 or 5, you're probably going to be below 40, and it's going to be hard to get back up there, unless you're playing Aloro or your Forsaken Monument decks, or you're just always gaining life.
And even then, as soon as you put this on the table, a lot of people are going to make it their mission to just bring you down below your starting life total. It is end of turn, so you'll play it, and presumably on that same turn you played it, draw the card, which is kind of good.
Yeah, maybe you have lifelink too, so you swing in with the creature in that turn too.
Yeah, and it is just kind of easier to, determine your own life total during your turn. So if it was an upkeep trigger, it'd be a lot harder to keep yourself above because everyone would hit you down and then upkeep trigger, and then you're like, oh, I gain all this life during my turn, but then I don't get to. So the fact that you get to draw the card at the end of your turn is kind of an upside.
It just seems like it's too tough to get that life total above with the 4 mana cost, and it seems like in the decks that want this that aren't white, they're going to have better ways of drawing cards, just straight up. So
it's good with Alhammer's Archive.
What is it?
Yeah, but this actually works with the life gain part and the card draw part. So you gain 4 life when you don't have the card draw, and when you do, you get 2 cards. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. If you have Alhammer's Archive, you're already doing fine.
Yeah.
If you got that out.
Yeah.
Would you play an artifact that just said 4 mana at the beginning of your draw step, draw an extra card?
Probably in some decks. It just would have to depend on the color. But
But
red,
it's not
white decks, white decks.
amazing,
for sure.
right?
No, it's not great. I mean, when you see Phyrexian Altar and when you see every other card that does just amazing nutty card, even you look at Sylvan Library and you just laugh, right?
Yeah, so I don't know why it would have been bad to just be like, what if this was 3 and a white at the beginning of your draw step, draw an extra card and gain a life?
Yeah, that'd be nice. And then maybe to sweeten the pot, if your life total is over 40, you gain 2 life instead.
Sure.
Is there something, just give them a little extra, hey, good job, you did it.
But this is going to I think people are acting like it's just going to draw you a card every time. It ain't.
No,
People are going to stop you from doing it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely not going to draw you a card every time.
All right. The next card is called Maskwood Nexus. This is a cool one, Jim. You want to read it?
Big one, yeah. I think this might be one of my favorite cards in the set. It's a 4 mana artifact. Creatures you control are every creature type. The same is true for creatures you control and creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield.
And creature spells.
Creature spells you control. Sorry, so if it's in your hand. And you can pay 3 and tap it. Create a 2/2 blue shapeshifter creature token with Changeling. Okay. So that's pretty cool. You're going to make tribal creatures with the changelings if you ever need to. But otherwise, this affects everything in your deck. This seems like an all-star for every single tribal deck because not every deck can play Arcane Adaptation, which is blue, or Conspiracy, which is black. So I think this is actually pretty sweet.
Keep going, because I'm lukewarm on it, but I want you to be happy about it.
Okay. So I was looking up other cards, right? If every creature is every creature type, then what kind of cards would do really well with this? And I was like, okay, there's a card called Turn Timber Ranger, right? And Turn Timber Ranger is going to be sweet because it's 3 green, that's a 2/2. Whenever Turn Timber Ranger or another ally enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a 2/2 green wolf creature token on the battlefield.
Oh, that's cool.
If you do, you put a +1/+1 counter on Turn Timber Ranger. The wolf comes out, it's also an ally.
So boom.
And boom.
Is that immediately infinite?
I think
That's
so.
infinite wolves? Or
Yeah.
sorry, infinite
Wolf,
angel, vampire, goblin, elf.
There's also Rin and Seri because they care about casting dog spells and cat spells.
Everything's a dog and a cat.
Yeah, Atla Palani obviously cares about this.
Eggs, yep.
And a lot of cards actually work well with this old deck called Lin Civi, which is like the ally commander, because you can pay 3 to put target rebel card from your graveyard on the bottom of your library, so that's anything in your deck, I think. And then you can pay X to tap it to search your library for a rebel card. So it's like, it seems fun for
I want to go back to Atla Palani.
Okay.
That's a pretty cool one because when eggs die,
you get to exile cards off the top of your library until you reveal a creature card.
Put it onto the battlefield.
Or reveal cards off the top of your library until you reveal a creature and put it on the battlefield.
And then that creature you put on the battlefield will be an egg. So when it dies,
yes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, I'm excited because, tribes.
Yeah.
And before Arcane Adaptation and Conspiracy were like this is how you make it happen in blue and black. But Maskwood Nexus kind of just busts the door open and says any color has access to this effect now. So it seems like another path that Wizards is taking for the popular formats and the popular commander decks, tribal stuff like this. And we'll see this with Pyre of Heroes as well, giving a colorless version of a pre-existing card that was only in certain colors so that more players can now use it in commander probably.
I think there's a good piece for the all tribes deck that we talked about earlier.
Yep.
Where you get to just kind of choose your payoffs from all the different tribes. I think this card is probably not quite as good in tribal decks as you think it is because most tribal decks
are already all that tribe.
Yeah, and so what does this do? It just taps and makes a 2/2. So, which is expensive because that's 7 mana before you get your first 2/2. So it really works good in decks that have some sort of tribal payoff, but don't actually have a lot of that tribe in the deck, which is rare because you wouldn't normally build a deck that has payoffs but can't count on getting those payoffs. So you need a tribal focused deck or a deck that has tribal payoffs, but has how many creatures in the deck need to be not of the main tribe that this is turning into the main tribe before this is good.
Yeah, they're mostly going to probably be utility creatures and stuff. You have to run a Rex Sage or whatever it is, but you're not elf tribal.
Exactly, or you've got a Snapcaster Mage in there because it's just a good card. So how many of those do you need before Maskwood Nexus becomes good in those decks? Do you need 7, 8, 10 of those? Yeah, that's why I think it's just... Not that there's no home for it because Atla Palani and stuff like that, of course, it's great. If it interacts with your commander in a certain way, it's going to be great. But
I think it's kind of cool if you play it with, because I know Marchesa decks that are wizard tribal, and you're all about stealing other people's cards, and they become wizards. So
that's cool.
There's some, I think, uses there.
And, if you have enough tribal payoffs, then creating a 2/2 of your tribe may be worth it because you're going to sort of ping-pong that around your triggers and get 3 or 4 different effects out of it. So that, slivers or something, maybe. Yeah, so...
Not like they needed any help, by the way.
Good point. Okay, Pyre of Heroes, which you just alluded to, is the next card. It's 2 mana for an artifact.
Segue, man.
You can pay 2 and tap it and sacrifice a creature. Search your library for a creature card that shares a creature type with the sacrificed creature and has converted mana cost equal to 1 plus that creature's converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Activate this ability only anytime you could cast a sorcery. This is Tribal Pod.
Yeah, it's Tribal Pod, right? And this is, again, the same thing. Before, Birthing Pod was just a green effect or a green-blue effect. And now we get to have in colorless, but it's limited to Tribal. So this pairs really well with Maskwood Nexus, because if it's out, then you can find anything with it.
In the All Tribes deck, this is really good.
Yeah, the All Tribe decks, it's really good. It's really good with Ora, Skyclave, Hierophant, because... It's 2 black and a white for a 3/3 lifelink, and it says when it or another cleric you control dies, return target cleric card with lesser converted mana cast from your graveyard to the battlefield. So you sack it, you get 2 things back at
and then you can sack the thing to get a bigger thing that gets then a smaller thing. Yeah, that's cool.
And there's a lot of clerics in this set, by the way. Thank you for JJR Tracy on Twitter for telling me that. Inala Archmage Ritualist works really well with this too, because Inala is all about making a token copy of a wizard or when it enters the battlefield, and then that token goes away. But now you can sacrifice that token, so you get, just a ton of value to find other stuff out.
That's cool.
Same with Marchesa, obviously you want to steal stuff. Lin Civi again, Yuriko and Ninjas. So I think it's more about people figuring out which tribes have the right chains, because I can see in the Ninja deck there's a 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop that you could go up the chain.
Right.
And you're going to always want to also be able to sack Yuriko because you can command a ninjutsu her out.
Yeah, the thing about Birthing Pod and Vanifar is the chains involve creatures that untap the Birthing Pod or the Vanifar, and it's going to be a lot harder to do in Pyre of Heroes because usually going up that chain, like Deceiver Exarch and I don't know, what's the Hippocamp or whatever that untapped stuff. They're not the same creature type. Yeah, Breaching Hippocamp. So I think that's cool because it makes Pyre of Heroes a lot more fair. It's going to be unlikely that they just activate Pyre of Heroes once and you're we're dead, aren't we?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think it makes it a lot cooler of an effect. So
and again, goes into every tribal deck, so party time.
All right, almost there. We got one more artifact. It's called Weathered Runestone. It's 2 mana for an artifact. Non-land permanent cards in graveyards and libraries can't enter the battlefield.
Wow.
Players can't cast spells from graveyards or libraries.
Okay.
So this is just a stop sign. In fact, it's circular. I read a little bit of ancient Nordic languages, and it actually just says stop.
I'm surprised it's not an octagon, instead it's a circle. So Grafdigger's Cage is similar. It's 1 mana, but it only stops creature cards in graveyards and libraries from entering the battlefield. Weathered Runestone takes that a notch up and only costs 1 more mana. So I think this is actually one of the most effective hate bear artifacts ever printed in Magic.
It shuts off a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
All those graveyard decks.
Carador, Elshi of the Infinite,
Marin,
Bolas's Citadel doesn't work anymore. Now there's Future Sight or Mystic Forge.
Kess,
yeah.
Bolas' Citadel, shutting that off is pretty sweet.
And it's only 2 mana, too. That's what I really like about this card. It's super cheap. Everyone can play it. In fact, I would recommend, unless you're going to be hurt by it, this might be one that you just look at your meta and go, yeah, I could totally slot this into a deck, and it will do work every single time.
It's funny because I look at this card, and I don't play with my graveyard much. I'm just not that type of player.
Yeah.
So a lot of my decks, I'm like, I should just run this because it's going to literally hose, 1.5 of the decks at the table every single game.
Yeah. And again, we know how important it is. Even if they have to sit there and remove it, if you give those decks a turn time walked and you get that extra turn, that can be the difference between winning and losing a game, for sure.
For sure. Very powerful card.
Yeah.
All right, we're on to the lands.
Yay.
We're almost there. The first one is Faceless Haven. You got it?
Yeah, this art is awesome, by the way.
Yeah, the art is sweet.
You can tap it to add a colorless diamond mana, or you can pay 3 snowman to make Faceless Haven become a 4/3 creature with vigilance and all creature types until end of turn. It's still a land.
This is by our good friend Titus Lunter.
Yeah, and the art is, I love it.
It's also a snow land. Sorry, I just said land.
Oh, right, it is a snow land. Yeah, I think this is a card that looks a little bit better for other formats than Commander.
Yeah.
You need to have a lot of snow mana for it. Obviously, it's going to be good in tribal decks, but 3 mana to do this when you have Mutavault does pretty much the same thing.
3 mana is just a lot.
Yeah. The cool thing is that you can do that, buff it up, and then it becomes a non-land and it's hard to interact with. But again, this seems like it's more fit for your standard players.
Yeah, standard. I mean, maybe in the All Tribes deck because he does get all creature types, but yeah. All right, the next one is a big one. A lot of people
this one's sweet.
have been talking about it. It's pretty crazy. It's called the World Tree.
Yggdrasil.
Yeah, it's a land, but it's not a snow land, and it's also not legendary. Whatever. We're just not going to talk about that part.
Yeah, I've heard that they're going to take legendary away slowly more from lands because it sucks in standard and stuff when you draw a copy of that land and you can't use it.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Because if you look back to Throne of Eldraine, all those Castle Embereth and stuff, those aren't legendary either.
All right. It's a land. It enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it to add green to your mana pool. But as long as you control 6 or more lands you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. So if you have 6 or more lands, it's Chromatic Lantern.
Including itself, yeah.
Yeah. And then it has an activated ability that's the same as,
Progenitus.
the same casting cost as Progenitus. So it's white, white, blue, blue, black, black, red, red, green, green. So 10 mana, you tap the World Tree and you sacrifice it. And you search your library for any number of God cards, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library.
Okay. This also works with the UPSTART Tribes deck.
Yeah, Maskwood Nexus is very good. If you have the World Tree and Maskwood Nexus out, you just go get all your creatures and put them in play, right? That seems good.
I mean, this seems actually good for 5-color decks that just need another way to give, a flexible mana base to themselves.
It's a really good land in a 5-color deck because the cost is so low of just like a tap land, but once you're at 6 lands...
If you're playing Golos, you can just search this out too, when you cast it.
Oh, yeah.
Gigantha pays for this really nicely too because that's a 5-color commander. It pays half the Wooburg. Obviously, you would play this with... I feel like a deck with this and maybe Asika, God of the Tree / Prismatic Bridge, where you're just finding huge gods like the Theros and Amonkhet gods. Don't forget those exist as well. And then you just play it with Maskwood Nexus or whatever. This seems like a really flexible land for 5-color decks because just by itself, it's fine. You don't even need to use the second part of it.
But you could also build a god deck. Mm-hmm. And you've got all the gods from Theros twice. You've got the Amonkhet gods, and then you got the gods from this set, from Kaldheim. So you could have 5-color god, tribal.
How to play a deck with only cards that are 5 CMC and up. That's how it goes.
And then if you want more gods, there's a card, and it can turn your creatures into gods.
Oh, that's right.
It's the next card. It's called Tyrite Sanctum. It's a land.
I'm so excited for this land.
Yeah. It's a land. It comes in untapped. You can tap it to add colorless or diamond mana to your mana pool. You pay 2, you tap the Tyrite Sanctum, and you target legendary creature becomes a god in addition to its other types. Oh. Period. It's just like, it's a god now. There's no counter or anything that makes it that. It just is. And you put a 1/1 counter on it. Or you can pay 4, tap and sacrifice the Tyrite Sanctum, and put an indestructible counter on target god. So this is a land that will, over the course of a few turns and a lot of mana, make your commander indestructible.
And yeah.
When someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes!
Tyrite Sanctum says so. You buried the lead, though, Josh. The +1/+1 counter is the most exciting part about this because it's a colorless land, and Marchesa, literally in those colors, has like 1.5 ways of getting +1/+1 counters on her, and this is finally another way to do it. And your commander becomes a god, so you can brag about that, I guess.
I totally buried the lead. That's my bad.
Yeah, and you're like, and that's a +1/+1 counter.
Yeah.
Whoa. That's all I care about.
I want to give things indestructible eventually.
Yeah, I mean, Skullbriar loves this kind of card, obviously, and then God Tribal, like we just talked about, or if you're playing like a Morophon deck or whatever, because they're gods already.
It's just kind of generally good if your commander's important to you and you can spare this in your mana base, because even just like on my end step, make it legendary, and, you know, being able to just eventually make your commander indestructible is pretty powerful.
Yeah, Indestructible, I think, is one of the... I always say it's underrated, but, I mean, exile effects are a plenty, but Indestructible is still very effective.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're almost there. We've got what we're going to call the Viking lands. Now, there's 10 of these. Each color pair gets a land that enters tapped, but you can sack it for some kind of effect. So all these lands... Sorry, there's 5 of these, not 10.
Right.
All these lands tap for 1 color of mana, so there's 5, 1 for each color. And then they have an activated ability that costs 2 different colors and does something. So, for example, Axgard Armory enters tapped, but can tap for a white mana, or you can pay 1 red, and white. So 4 mana, tap and sacrifice the Axgard Armory, and you search your library for an aura or equipment card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your library. So it's a land, comes in tapped, but eventually turns into a tutor for equipment or auras.
That seems pretty good.
Yeah.
You get both, by the way. You can get and, right?
Oh, it's and.
Yeah.
Aura and equipment.
So 2 cards for 4 mana and a
Pretty
land. Good. So, I mean, like, again, it's not amazing, but it's where it's at. Notvold Slumbermound is the next one. It's enters the battlefield tapped, adds red, but for 3 red, green, you can sack it to destroy target land and then create a 4/4 green troll warrior creature token with trample.
It's like a piece of Waking the Troll.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, I think, quite good because in these colors, you can probably get this out of your graveyard and do it again.
Yeah. It's 6 mana to do it. Does suck, but it's still a good effect.
A lot of times those landfall decks just have a lot of lands that they're not doing much with.
Yeah, totally.
A lot of mana. The black one, it comes in tapped and taps for black. It's called Great Hall of Starnheim. This one's interesting because you pay white, red, tap and sack the Great Hall, but you also have to sacrifice a creature you control to get the effect. But what it does is create a 4/4 white angel warrior creature token with flying and vigilance, so it creates a Serra Angel.
Right, it makes it's elevating your 1/1 soldier Josh token into a 4/4 Melissa Datora.
I just realized I have 4 of them written down and 4 of them in my hand, and there's only 5 of them, so we're just leaving the green one out, but whatever.
It probably wasn't that great, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was good. It was the Simic one. I don't know. Anyway, no, there's, I forget.
Oh, look.
Yeah,
you read this one.
So maybe there is 10 of these, because there's one that draws you cards in like white-blue. So I think there is 10, and I was wrong. There's 2 for each color, I think. 2 for each color?
There is 1, 2, there is 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 10.
I was right originally. There are 10 of them, so we're only reading 4, and that's totally fine because we're not just leaving 1 out. We're leaving 6 out. Okay. This one I think is the best one. It's Port of Carfell. It's a land that enters tapped, but taps for blue. And you can pay 3 blue, black, so 6 mana, and sacrifice the Port of Carfell. But you mill 4 cards and then return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped.
Okay.
It also doesn't say you can only do this as a sorcery, which a lot of these do say that. Yeah. So this is activatable at instant speed in colors that like to hold their mana open and also like to mill themselves.
Yeah, it just seems like a really easy land to put in those decks.
But I think all these lands are very, very good. You should look at all of them, and it's probably incorrect if you're in the colors not to maybe run at least one of them in your deck. But I'd be careful about running a lot because they do enter the battlefield tapped, and that's a downside. And you're unlikely to have the mana to activate a land like this more than once a game, right?
Yeah, and once you do it, don't forget you're down a land drop. So they're going to be better in the colors that can bring extra lands on the battlefield for that reason.
Okay, and then finally, there is a cycle of 10 fetchable snow guild gates.
Yeah, they all enter the battlefield tapped. They're all snow lands, but what they do is tap for 2 colors. But they'll also say, like, for instance, Snowfield Sinkhole will say Plain Swamp, Snowland.
Yeah, they have basic land types.
Sulphurous Mire is black, red, and it says Snowland, Swamp, Mountain. So if you can search for a basic land type when you fetch, then you can grab these out.
Imagine a Guildgate that's snow, but also has land types. And that's what these are.
It's winter in Guildgate land.
I think these are going to be a little overrated. Everyone got excited, like, oh, you can fetch for them.
It's cool that you can fetch for them, but if you look at the lands that actually can do it, it's like the Shards of Alar Panoramas, which come in the battlefield tapped. The Mirage fetches was also coming in the battlefield tapped. Flagstones of Trocaire might be a good one here. But is it better than a land like Prismatic Vista or Fabled Passage?
I mean, obviously you're
losing the 2 colors, but
you're leaving out the fetch lands, which are the really expensive ones.
That's why I didn't mention them.
Yeah. Those are the ones that could actually go get these. And it feels like if you have those fetch lands, you probably have shock lands.
Yeah.
And you don't want lands that come into battlefield tapped. I think
these are kind of
I think a snow land that's a basic is going to be better than these most of the time. You might want to run 1 or 2 of these, but just having to go get a land that comes in play tapped, it does hurt you.
Yeah, I would say like the best use of these would be like you don't have the shock land yet, but you still want to be able to fetch for the 2 colors because it makes your mana base slightly better.
But in a lot of instances, I think it will be better to just have a basic in those 2 slots.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you can run 1 or 2 of these, but
it
just
might be one of
careful.
those things where when you do it and you have the option, you're like, you know what? I need to use that mana this turn, so I'm not going to fetch for one of my snow doubles.
Yeah. Okay. That is all the cards that go in the 99. What are we at here?
20?
Over 2 hours.
Yeah,
okay. We're going to wrap this up, but we first need to talk about our
most powerful
nominees for most powerful cards in the set.
And the nominees
and then
are...
most our favorite. So let's start with most powerful.
Yep, so we have Mystic Reflection, which is that blue spell that lets you copy things and change things when they enter the battlefield for the next time it happens. Weathered Runestone, which is the superior Grafdigger's Cage. Port of Carfell, which is that land that Josh talked about that can bring a creature card back to the grave, from the graveyard to the library.
Dream Devourer, which lets you have all foretell on all your cards.
Yep.
Maskwood Nexus, which is make all your creatures all the tribes.
Yep. Cosmic Intervention, which is sort of like White's sort of let's do the White thing now.
Anything that would die this turn, you exile it and bring it back.
Yeah.
Also, Showdown of the Scalds, which is the saga that impulsive draws 4 cards.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. Okay, well, those are the nominees for the most powerful cards. Jimmy, do you know which one you think is the most powerful?
I do, because it's the one that I think you can just put into literally any deck that plays this color, and it's fine.
Okay, well, name yours then, because mine's different.
Dream Devourer!
Yeah, it's pretty cool. The foretell one?
Yeah, because if your deck plays black, you can't have a legitimate argument to be like, no, I could never use this card. It's like, you can always use this card.
Right, it might be awesome to okay, but it'll never be like bad.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to say Weathered Runestone.
Ah, very nice. I mean, in our playgroup, this would just turn off, like you said, half the decks every time pretty much around.
I feel like there's always at least one dedicated graveyard deck at the table, and there's often shenanigans going on with like cheating things out of your library. So
yeah. If you're not turning off a whole deck, you're definitely turning off at least 2 or 3 cards, maybe even more.
Yeah, and so often you'll shut off an entire deck and then turn off half of another deck. That's really powerful for one card to do.
Yeah.
I think Mystic Reflection's also probably up there. There's some crazy stuff you can do with it.
Yeah. Totally.
What's your favorite card from the set?
It might be Showdown of the Scalds, because I want to just exile 4 cards and play them.
Yeah, it's 4 mana, draw 4.
Yeah, that or Goldspan Dragon, because I think that's really fun too.
That's a cool one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my favorite one is Cosmic Intervention. If you don't do the Armageddon thing. Because I like that effect, and I like that there's more
a
of them.
asterisk.
I already like playing with Brought Back and Second Sunrise and Sylvain's like Reclamation with that Boros Fetchland package that we've talked about. This fits right in there, and I think even opens up some other like ways to use that type of strategy. So I like that quite a bit.
Okay, cool.
All right. To the listeners,
get out of here, papers.
What do you think of Kaldheim as a set? What cards are you most excited about? What do you think is the most powerful? What's your favorite? Tell us in the comments.
Yep. It could be the MDFCs. It could be the cards we talked about today. It also could be from the mini precons, which we'll be addressing in our next couple of episodes. Of course, if you want any of the cards that we talked about today, to pre-order them, to get them in that sweet showcase frame with that Viking frame and all that stuff, you got to go to cardking.com/commandzone, our affiliate link. Type it in. You're going to get the cards anyway, so why not do it from a place that you're going to have great customer service, they're going to get shipped out to you quickly, and you're supporting the podcast at the same time, and we super-de-duper appreciate that.
And when you get all those cards, you want to keep them safe. You want to keep them in pristine condition. UltraPro make the products that Jimmy and I trust our own personal collections with. You want to put your cards into the best sleeves possible. You know, the Pro Gloss Eclipse sleeves are our favorites from UltraPro. You want to put them into a sweet deck box, Satin Towers, or maybe one of the Mythic collection, or maybe something themed around Kaldheim. They have these sweet deck boxes now that are kind of snow themed. Yeah, we'll put some on screen if you're watching YouTube. They look really, really sweet. UltraPro always making the best stuff that looks the best and also protects your stuff the best.
I also like the idea that if you have a dedicated space in your room for these types of wall scrolls, you can just replace it with the new sets. Or if you're feeling, I don't like this anymore, put an old one up. So you kind of like have an interchangeable aesthetic.
That you switch around. I like that.
Yeah, it's kind of what we do here on set.
That's good interior design advice.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Ooh, finally.
So now it's time for the end step, but on this episode, we are going to replace the end step with something more exciting. Game Nights Audition. If you sent in your Game Nights Audition, this is the part that you jumped to after we mentioned it earlier, and you're here now, and we're nice to see you again, and thank you for coming. Okay.
Or thank you for skipping ahead.
Thank you for skipping ahead. Hopefully that you go back after you find out who won and watch the entirety of the episode, because we just talked for 2 hours.
Yeah, my throat hurts.
Okay, so we received about 1,000 auditions.
Wow.
Which obviously is why it took us so long to go through all of them. There were a lot of really good submissions this year.
Yeah, they get better every year, by the way.
So we did have to choose 2 people in the end. We said we would choose a patron and a Kickstarter supporter, and we had to narrow it down, and we had to choose 2, and there was a lot of crying and gnashing of teeth as we did this process, because
it was close.
There was a lot of people that we could have chosen, and so I just wanted to say that to everybody that we're going to announce a couple winners, and it's a finite amount, a very small amount that we can announce here. But a lot of you were in contention and had really good auditions. And honestly, like, it was a coin flip at the end between, you know, the last half dozen or so, because there were just so many and there were so many good ones, and we had to choose. So
yeah, and so we encourage you to apply an audition again in the future. I think these entries were the best we've ever seen, and I'm really glad that everyone keeps upping their game too for their auditions every time.
Yeah, and we do plan to do this again in the future. Obviously, pandemic willing, there's going to be some stuff we'll talk about after that. But we know you're all waiting, so let's play. Well, I want to play a really quick snippet of all of the auditions, a little montage we put together just to show that how many people there were from different walks of life, because I think that's exciting. So
yeah, totally.
We're going to play that really fast.
Hi, Josh and Jimmy.
What's up, Command Zone?
Hey, Game Nights.
What up, Jimmy and Josh?
Hey, guys.
Hey, Command Zone crew.
Hey there, Josh and Jimmy.
What's up, Commander players?
Hey.
How's it?
Hey, what's up, y'all?
I am from Qatar.
I am from the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago, to be exact.
I'm from Miami, Florida.
Austin, Texas.
Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Frankfurt in Germany.
Guangdong, China.
Stockholm, Sweden.
Vermilion, Ohio.
Simonton, New Jersey.
Melbourne in Australia.
The beautiful state of Oregon.
And this is my audition for Game Nights.
I love Commander, and I'd love to be on Game Nights.
This is an audition for the show.
I would like to tell you about my favorite Commander story.
My favorite moment from a game of Commander.
My favorite moment from an EDH game.
Imagine, if you will.
This was a 4-player game.
I was playing my Elsha of the Infinite deck.
I'm playing Teneosin's Hero.
I'm playing Tristani Selesnia's Voice.
Campbell, Console of Allocation.
I Bruce Tull and Revelstead.
Araba, Raw of the Wilds.
Phylith, the World Sculptor.
Edgar Markov, Mardu. The best.
One of these 132 Commander decks. That's right, I have a problem. There's a lot of decks. I get bored easily.
And in this particular game,
my friend had out Krenko, a Goblin Bombardment, and a few other like goblins.
I had a Nyxbloom Ancient, a Vorinclex, and a Dublin Cube.
And then he uses my Nicol Bolas to steal the top card of my library that I searched for with his Planeswalker.
I'm trying to like politic my way and be like, I'm just gaining life over here, don't bother me.
I was missing land drops.
Everyone else's board stage is just absolutely nuts.
I was down to the teens in life. I was almost dead.
I was losing pretty badly. It was pretty bad.
Things were getting so out of control. I had to do something fast.
It was a really bad situation. We're all going, uh-oh.
And I knew, okay, I have to go off here.
So I sacrificed a few lands, draw a few cards, don't really find what I'm looking for.
So I decide to windfall. And windfall again.
So we all discard our hand and drew 7 cards.
And I had some sort of recursion effect that brought everything back from all graveyards to the battlefield.
And I'm sitting here in a 6-player pod with my fingers crossed.
And I'm like, oh wait, is this going to happen? Is it going to happen?
My turn hit, drop Blightsteel Colossus,
and I get to go pew, 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 and destroy every single permanent on the battlefield.
I got a 13/13 Trampling Insect Kraken.
The crowd went wild, and I emerged victorious.
And there you have it. That's my favorite moment from a game of Commander.
Only one may stand.
Okay, so pretty cool. I love our people, man. When we were watching these things, I don't know if you feel the same way, Jimmy, but I just got warm fuzzies the whole time. I was just
yeah, there were some that just made me like smile all the way throughout. I was so happy to see people from all around the world too auditioning.
Yeah, I love our community. Thanks everybody who auditioned. It just made me feel really good to know that, all of these people are supporters of our content and such great people.
And you're still in the community regardless if you win.
Okay. So we're going to announce the winner of the Kickstarter audition first. So this is, there's going to be 2. This is the first one. If you see your face here and hear your voice, it's you. You're going to be on an episode of Game Nights.
Roll the clip.
And I had a large board of untapped hasty slivers. So I was just at the last second able to go off, make a ton of slivers, tap them all, and kill the entire table at once. And hastily remind my friends why they don't let me play that deck anymore.
All right, congratulations,
Woohoo!
Zach. Thank you so much for your awesome audition. Zach. We look forward to meeting you and grounding you into powder. When we face you across the table. Zach, get ready. We're coming for you.
And if you all didn't know, we chose winners from Kickstarter as a sort of an additional thing if you got to a certain level. And we had 1,000 total auditions. Only about 200 of them were from Kickstarter. So that actually made it a smaller playing field. And I think for a lot of people, there were people that did both, right? Both Kickstarter and Patreon auditions. So that seems like a pretty good value.
Yeah, a lot of good value from the Kickstarter. If you entered the Kickstarter, you actually had a better chance to be chosen. So we're just saying that so that next time we have one of those Kickstarters, y'all will join at the audition level because, you want to have a better chance at getting on the show. All right, patrons, you're awesome. You're our backbone.
Yeah.
We are about to show the winner of the patron audition. So again, if you see your face and hear your voice, it's you. You are the second guest on the next fan episode of Game Nights.
Yeah.
And it comes around to my turn. I top deck a Realm Cloak Giant. Only board wipe I have on my whole deck. So cockily, I played an Ancient Amphitheater untapped, revealing the Realm Cloak Giant. And instantly, Arlo with the Polymorph deck was like, hold on, don't cast the board wipe. I can deal with Mutate. I'll keep you in the game. I'll deal with his creatures. I was sure since he hadn't cast any removal of the game, he had a Path's Exile or something.
All right. Congratulations, Ayuri.
Yeah. You definitely would have recognized your voice from across the room on that audition. I loved it. Loved the energy.
Ayuri has much cooler hair. That's probably because of the pandemic, right? He probably had short hair and then it grew longer.
I don't know. Maybe it's always been that way. He was born that way. Yeah,
congratulations, Zach, Ayuri. We really look forward to flying you out to Los Angeles and having you participate in an episode of Game Nights. We should say that we're going to be contacting you both soon. We want it to be a surprise, so we won't have contacted you before this episode comes out. So in the next couple of days, we'll reach out. Wanted to note that because of COVID, we're not sure still when we're going to be able to record this episode. Obviously, the pandemic's still ongoing, and particularly in Los Angeles, it's been pretty bad for the last month or so. So
Josh and I are in our different spots right now.
Yeah, so but I think there's a lot of hope out there that sometime in the later half of this year, we'll start to calm down, and hopefully it'll be okay for us to do that.
Yep,
we're going to play it safe, but it is our goal to prioritize and make sure that we make this fan episode happen as soon as it is safe to do so.
Yes, especially because we have to value your safety as well as ours. And so putting someone on a plane or doing any of that, it loses its value when you're putting that person in danger too.
Yeah, so we're going to do what it's safe to do, but we are going to do it. You are going to be on Game Nights. We will make it happen at some point.
Congrats, everyone.
All right,
Yay.
Congrats. And again, if you weren't chosen and your name wasn't shown or whatever, don't feel bad. There were a ton in contention. We're going to do this again, so you will have more chances. So we hope you keep entering. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, time for the cleanup step. Big thanks to our editing, graphics, and logistics team, which is Craig Blanchett, Manson Lung, Ashlyn Rose, Lady Danger, Jake Boss, Josh Murphy, Alfred Estaka, Patrick Non, Sam Waldo, Arthur Meadowcroft, and Jordan Pridgeon.
Woo!
I did in one
nice.
breath. Yeah.
Okay, I'll do this next one in one breath. And big thanks as always to Geoffrey Palmer for the living card animations that live behind us on set sometimes, but always open our videos at the youtube.com/thecommandzonepodcast. You can find Geoffrey at Living Cards MTG on Twitter. I have so much breath left.
Wow. Wow, he just put me to shame.
You had to say a bunch more. You had to say all those names and pronounce them right. I just had to say Twitter and some things. Okay.
It seems like you said more.
Yeah, I probably didn't. I've said this enough at this point that it's all buried into my head deep down.
I agree with that. We have said enough. Thanks, everybody, for sticking with us for these last couple of hours. Yeah, we hope you found some information that you like, and we will see you soon with our budget upgrade videos for the mini precons.
Yeah, bye, everyone.
Peace.
Thank you for your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.